You are about to opt in to Monerotopia, a show for the Monero community where all are welcome to join. From noob to maxi, no matter what bags you hold. Just sit back and relax to the sweet sounds of Monero's latest progress. Or if you're feeling inspired, join us on stage. Remember, the only thing that can stop Monero is a false belief that it can be stopped. And if you want to win the revolution faster, we recommend you remove your XMR from all custodial exchanges immediately. Warning, voting accidents are common around here. Don't forget to properly secure your private keys. Monerotopia starts now.
All right. Morning, Tux.
GM. We are
Fairly Reasonable Investor. Did we ever have him up on stage? Who do we know who Fairly Reasonable Investor is?
So I think I've seen him around.
He's like our most active commentator. Fairly Reasonable Investor. They don't buy Monero campaign needs to come back. Those stickers were profound. They were quite controversial at the time. To use the "Don't buy Monero" tagline is a meme to us, but an inside joke among other normies who can signal they're in the know. It's really brilliant. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Tux? Remember the sticker, like the warning on the cigarette packet? Don't buy Monero. It's hazardous to the banking system, to the banking apparatus.
I do have one of those stickers. It's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a different way to market Monero, but if the goal is purely to get attention, well, I think it does that. Because when you tell someone not to do something, well,
yeah,
suddenly they're interested.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of drama, I feel like, this week between Zcash and Monero. That would have been a good guest to get, to have Vlad jump up here or something. That would have been fun. Vlad, if you're out there, I doubt you're listening right now, but if you are, please join us. Or Joel, I'm trying to win that guy over and have more friendly engagements with him, but I feel like I keep extending the olive branch and he's just taking it and slapping me back in the face. Joel, jump up. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation. You're always welcome to join us here on Monerotopia. I believe he will be at PorcFest, so I'm going to try to get him to participate in the Monerotopia PorcFest event. Maybe we can become friends there. I've met him at PorcFest in the past. Reasonable guy. It's just the way he communicates on Twitter. He's like very... I don't know if you saw, basically Vlad and Joel were spreading this FUD that full chain membership proofs will not be completed because basically Luke Parker quit Monero, right? And it's kept repeating this FUD, and we're not willing to correct themselves. And actually, I think it was yesterday, Justin tweeted that he has made new progress with the Justin Berman, that he's made new progress with the implementation of full chain membership proofs. So yeah, no need for alarm. Just I don't know why they were spreading that. I guess they're just fucking around and trying to pump Zcash, but
I think it's the age-old Zcash question. It's like I think before it used to be easier to kind of ignore and not really care about it. But I mean, the truth is now that Zcash does have some more advanced technology for sender privacy.
Yeah.
But it has a lot of other things surrounding it. It's got some other baggage, and all of that was kind of a turnoff for people as well.
It's a VC-funded Silicon Valley, corporate privacy coin.
And then, even though they use zero-knowledge proofs for the sender privacy, because the actual usage is so low, there's potentially some other heuristics concerns there regarding that.
There's
because most of the transactions themselves are very low compared to Monero, and then on top of that, most of them, to my knowledge, still are unshielded. Most of them are transparent.
Right, and just the fact that there is the option, it's not default private, the whole fungibility thing, right? I mean, there's that. Then they're also making this claim that, basically there are two attacks on Monero. It's obviously one, the ring signatures, right? But two, once that goes away, it sounds like their next attack on Monero is scalability. Like Zcash can fundamentally scale Monero can't.
I definitely have no knowledge on.
Yeah, I would love
scalability.
to. I would love. That's why I would like to do
Arctic
something.
Mine would maybe have more knowledge.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to get them. I would like Zcash to be involved in Monerotopia in the conference. We did have somebody 2 years ago that gave a remote talk, and it was actually I went back and listened to it before the last Monerotopia. It was actually quite good. It was, and it ended up being a really solid comparison, like honest comparison between Monero and Zcash. It was mostly talking about Zcash's funding mechanism and how it's a good, should be viewed as obviously he was pointing out overall the negative aspect of it compared to Monero, where there is essentially this dev tax incorporation, but he was also pointing out the positive attributes of that, which is you have this treasury that could easily be deployed to make improvements to your protocol. And I think we've definitely seen Zcash benefit from that. That's, they put that money towards developing the tech, and they were the first ones to effectively create a zero knowledge proof system that allows, it allows you to perfectly encrypt, right? Essentially. But, like we said, there's the negative side of that too. The fact that there is essentially this controlled group behind Zcash, and there's the founders. They got rid of the founders reward though, right? That's interesting. They're definitely made improvements with regards to moving things in the right direction, but they're still not default private. And
now,
to
be fair,
they're still willing to seemingly negotiate with the powers that be for purposes of being friendly to governments and being, friendly with regulations, which is kind of concerning. But go ahead, Tux. What do you got?
I was just gonna say, to be fair, I think the majority of the Zcash wallets now, especially the ones that are mainly used, do force you. They only let you spend if your Zcash has been moved, if your ZEC has been moved into the shielded address. So
okay, yeah, that's cool.
That's not a default protocol thing, but it's something that I think Zashi does that. But Zcash wallets overall they're kind of slow. They're not the best user experience. I think Monero still has greater user experience over Zcash for sure, especially because you have one address type. You don't have multiple address types. It's not confusing like that. I think both projects have their pros and cons. But I like Monero. I like the community. I like the adoption it has. I like the momentum it has behind it. I like the fact that it's a more decentralized project. It's not controlled by some corporation that's in, maybe some concerning pockets of money. That's just what I prefer. I think it's cooler. I think it's more cypherpunk. And Monero, considering how it's set up and how it's worked on, it's actually really, really impressive how well it's worked and how far it's come. And I mean, this is really like a big hill that once it's crossed, Monero is going to be, I think, the best for full chain membership proofs ++. And I mean, it's been known that ring signatures have been a problem for a while. People have talked about it. Everyone knows that ring signatures it's not, 100% guaranteed privacy. It's like you've got some plausible deniability with them, but there's statistical analysis that can be done that can, over time break that down a little bit. So it's not like a surprise, but once full chain membership proofs ++ is implemented, I mean, it's going to be on par, if not better than Zcash for sender privacy.
Yeah, I mean, there's always been more to this story than just the tech and the privacy, right? It's about having the most unstoppable digital cash at that moment in time and being continuing to design towards that end. And Monero's always made those design decisions from early on that, doing what it needed to do to be usable as digital cash in a trustless way, right? Where you weren't just trusting that something might be working when it's actually not. So sometimes that meant taking, using the tech that was perhaps a little older than the newfangled, right? But it was, those decisions were made for purposes of the being unstoppable digital cash that people don't have to trust. And I think the unstoppable part is key too, right? That's what I always, when I always like boil down Monero's value proposition, it's not just digital cash, it's unstoppable digital cash. And so Monero has ASIC resistance, right? That really plays into its ability to be unstoppable. It's going to be difficult for companies and governments to co-opt the mining network of Monero. Now, I don't know what Zcash is doing with regards to that. My understanding is they're just like Bitcoin, right? The other thing is dynamic block size, right? And tail emission, right? All these things are built into making Monero more unstoppable and allowing it to continue to self-perpetuate. I don't what is, maybe I don't understand Zcash well, but my understanding is very similar to Bitcoin, right? In terms of its architecture. So isn't going to have those same problems with scaling? I guess they're saying with zero knowledge, they could scale, like easily make a second layer or something to scale.
Well, Zcash is actually a fork of Bitcoin. I mean, obviously now it's very, very different.
But I'm not understanding this grand scaling argument that's being made for Zcash. Like we said, I guess we got to talk to people that know the architecture better. But how is it avoiding Bitcoin scaling issues? Right?
Yeah, I've not looked into that myself, but I would be interested having somebody come on who could speak to that in a greater way, because we all know the features Monero has to help deal with that. And I guess some people are saying that Zcash is even more scalable than Monero, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, what? Well, like, all right, well, okay. This is why I do want them to participate in Monerotopia. Come speak in Monerotopia. I don't get that either, why they don't want to engage with them. It's like they're unwilling to come to our our playground. We need to go to theirs, I guess. I don't know.
And I think one of the worst things that ever happened to the Zcash project is when Zuko tweeted that we think we can make Zcash private while also making it not private for criminals. He said something, I'm paraphrasing.
Enough, right,
but
yeah.
That
private
was
enough where we could, still prevent the funding of terrorism type thing. Like, okay, well, how do you do that? Right? That sounds like you're sacrificing its default private nature at that point. And but Zuko got like, I feel bad for him, right? Because he's super OG cypherpunk. He really, I mean, he was one of the earliest users of Bitcoin with Satoshi. And then he went and built Zcash, and I guess he was pivotal in inventing the new tech that was involved in it. But then, he just made some silly comments, and he seemed to, I don't know if it was coming from him or the people or the VCs around him, but he seemed to take it more in a corporate direction as opposed to a grassroots direction. And that's where the projects kind of fundamentally differed. And then Monero always pledged to evolve to be the best form of unstoppable digital cash, no matter what that meant, no matter who that would piss off, no matter who would try to ban it. It was going to do that, like, and double down on it. Whereas Zcash was like, well, maybe we can work with you guys. Like, yeah, we're super private, but don't worry, we got some other things built in here that we could use if we need to use it to find the bad guys. And we'll make some new addresses for you for the exchanges. So now they're compliant. Like that, that's the fundamental difference. So unless that culture is going to change, the game plan is all right to get their foot in the door and then they'll change. I guess that's an interesting strategy, but I don't know if that's going to happen because it's more likely that they'll just be co-opted. So enough about Zcash, but if anybody does want to jump up and be our special guest today that has expertise in the area, maybe we could do that theme. Or I was trying to get the guy here. Let me pull this up. I think this is great. This might be my new favorite. One of my top favorite posts listings on XMR Bazaar. Somebody just posted they're selling 16 acres of land in upstate New York. Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool location too.
Is Doug thinking about it?
Sunita, I don't think Sunita wants to move to Binghamton. Yeah, it's a Binghamton,
That's probably
New
far
York.
from New York City, I imagine.
It's a couple of hours. It's not too bad. I think it's like, it might be like 4 hours, 3 hours. 16 acres, but what's cool is it's like right outside of the like Binghamton. Obviously, upstate New York is like very, very rural, right? You could just drive for miles, and it's just hills with trees on them. But Binghamton's a nice. I've not like. Have I been to Binghamton? Binghamton has a good university up there, like good engineering school. It's a state university, but it always was like the best New York State university funded. And I'm sure it's a nice little town. And what's cool about the land is it's overlooking the town. It's like right on it's not like super on the outskirts. Looks like it could even be like walking distance into the town itself. Like you go down the hills, and 16 acres is pretty big. So pretty cool. So trying to get this guy to jump up. I just sent him a message like an hour ago, so it's a little late notice. So Atomic Fox, if you hear us, jump up and tell us your land selling story. Why
seems like a lot of land for $85K, but because it's a rural area.
Well, actually, I will say I looked up there's a Zillow link, and like this land sold for like 10K in like 2020 or something. It was, or I could be getting up, but it's something ridiculous. Like,
so he's trying to get a cool 7x return.
Well, I'm curious what's up with the land. Like, I'm
it's
surprised.
Probably like in a place where you don't have access to plumbing, or is it next to a road at least?
Yeah, it says it's got like it's got access. Because it's within the city of Binghamton, so you're not out in the middle of nowhere.
I see.
So that's kind of cool. Where's the? So yeah, if he wants to jump up, where's the history? I don't know how accurate these things are. Here, look, it says like price history. So this is crazy, but I don't know. This doesn't look right. I mean, sold for $1,000 in 2004, listed for sale for $40,000, then the listing was removed. Kept lowering the price, trying to get price change. So it was sold in 2020 for $12,500 in 2020 So things definitely did skyrocket since 2020. The entire market skyrocketed. So now, that was the last. And then it sold in 2024 for $4,500. What the hell's that about?
Maybe that was there was like a change of hands between like family or something.
Right? Yeah, it's got to be something like that, because that's weird. I don't know why they, I guess so. Yeah, if he wants to jump up, I'd love to hear the story. But I mean, 16 acres. I'm not. Sounds like a good price without knowing much about it, unless it's like a fucking. I don't know.
16 acres where I live.
An old landfill. Right? Like, let's just gotta see what's buried on that land.
People are selling 1 acre for like 150, 200K, where I live now.
Yeah. So it's interesting. We were looking at that land in Argentina, trying to get, let's just get some land in Binghamton, New York.
Hey, you're closer to it instead of having to.
It's actually more practical. But actually, utilize it.
You could build a Monero village.
That's what I was
on the
saying.
16 acres.
Like a Monero hotel, right? Like a hotel and spa, nice bar.
Imagine this would be like
all very health, super health related, right? Like, we'll do all like the grass fed. Tux will put the menu together. He'll be the one in charge of the menu at the hotel restaurant. I don't know. Do we even want? We'll have a bar. Obviously that's not completely.
This could be an international tourist attraction. It's like, oh, there's this little tiny village you can go to that's got like a hotel, a restaurant,
raw milk. It'll be a raw milk bar. Raw milk bar.
Raw milk bar.
Yeah. Be freaking awesome.
Because to my knowledge, there's not really, like, there's a few places here and there you can go to in the U.S. that accept crypto, but there's not like one like town or city that's like, oh, you can accept crypto at several places. It's like kind of sparse here and there.
We'll have like really good gym, indoor and outdoor, all year round, like pool, outdoor, heated pool, cold plunge, saunas, outdoor jacuzzis. You just come there, you just freaking go back to nature and get strong, get Monero strong. Obviously, we can't be Monero only, but that will be the goal.
It all goes back to Monero.
It's an interesting place. I mean, it's like really kind of depressing in the winter upstate New York. It's just like freaking cold. But if you make it nice, if you make a nice place, like a freaking spa type place, where, you know, like nice pool, jacuzzis, saunas, make it where you can basically hang out outside, like half naked in the winter.
It sounds sunshine. Like a Doug pastime.
Private areas where you can sun your balls, like, you know, where you have a. I think it'd be quite popular. So maybe we get that guy on the show. We bring this vision to fruition. Yeah. What else we got? Anything else to announce? I guess just PorcFest, guys. Monerotopia PorcFest. Also, it's happening the same time as MoneroCon, for those of you who weren't following the drama. But yeah, we've teamed up with MoneroCon. Both conferences are happening at the same time, so you could either, if you can't make it to Prague, and you know you're in the U.S., you should definitely come by. You just need to get tickets to PorcFest itself. Let me bring up. You know, you don't need tickets for Monerotopia, just for PorcFest. So grab your tickets now if you're going to get them. We might get a discount code from them. They mentioned something. But yeah, otherwise the tickets will sell out for PorcFest. It's like thousands of people go, but some years, this could be a banner year, and it'll likely sell out. So it's all week long, June 16th through the 22nd. But things probably won't really heat up to the end of the week. I'm thinking, the big days will be like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is the same time that MoneroCon is happening, and we'll be streaming their talks. Obviously, some of their talks will be happening super early in the morning, but we'll just be playing their talks on repeat in some section of our setup. So, you won't miss out on Luke Parker talking about full chain membership proof implementation, and you'll be among many legitimate Monero using people that actually are in it for the right reasons, people that have opted out. Everybody at PorcFest is of the opt-out kind, whether or not they actively use Monero. They've all are trying to opt out one way or the other. A lot of gold backs being used, gold backs, Monero. I'd say those are actually the two most used currencies at PorcFest. Maybe that's just my perception because I'm always getting people to try to use Monero and whatnot. Bitcoin Cash people use as well. But I'd say those are the top. So super cool. Come on out. Figure out your accommodations. You could, rent a plot of land there, like a, campsite. You could bring an RV there. You could just bring a tent and set up a tent. You could stay off campus. There's some hotels, but they fill up. There's some Airbnbs, but they fill up. And if you want to participate in any way, you want to help, volunteer, run the tent, be a speaker, whatever it is, come present something, hit me up, Monerotopia at protonmail.com for anything involving the event we're doing at PorcFest. If you want to collaborate in any way, hit me up, Monerotopia at porcfest.com. I'll put up I'll create a website soon. We'll show who all the sponsors are. So far we have Cake, who's our first sponsor, Xano is a sponsor, so that's where the controversy came with Monero Clan not wanting to play our feed because they've eliminated Xano as being allowed to be a sponsor, but they're allowed to be a speaker, but they're not allowed to be a sponsor. Whatever, they're Monerotopia sponsor, not Monero Clan, so they're a sponsor. And then we have a couple of more that we're lining up as well. So we should have. That's how that's how we're gonna fund this. It is just the tent alone costs like $12,500 because we're getting like the best location. We are like the main sponsor of PorcFest. The Monerotopia PorcFest tent will be essentially the main sponsor at PorcFest. So huge thank you to the sponsors. Huge thank you to Cake and to Xano and everybody else that we end up lining up. And Aaron Day, huge thank you to you as well. I'm partnering with him on this, and he's really going to be the guy that's going to do the brunt of the organization and the work putting this together. So, thank you to Aaron, and it should be fantastic, guys. So, highly recommend if you can come check it out. It is the Monero conference that will be happening in the U.S. Right? People are saying, "Oh, we should do one in the U.S." This is a U.S.-based Monero conference. It's as as Monero as any Monero conference gets. So should be very cool. And I'm hoping to this becomes like a moment where we maybe see a rise in the Monero transaction count. Right? We've seen that in conferences in years past, and now both Monerotopia and Monero Clan will be happening at the same time. So I think we should be actively marketing it as, let's make this the Monero weekend for global Monero adoption. See transaction counts rise. Obviously, nice to see price rise, but I'm just thinking in terms of usage. Let's pump the usage. We don't even have to pump the price. Let's pump the usage of Monero during Monerotopia PorcFest and Monero Clan weekend. So, Tux, what do you think, man? Am I overselling this? Can this be
a little bit?
This will effectively be the biggest Monero conference we've ever had because we have two conferences happening at the same time. So, them combined creates the largest Monero conference of all time.
I mean, if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah. That's how I'm thinking about it. I mean, people will be talking about Monero, will be getting some attention. We'll have tons of content going out on X 24/7, essentially, because we'll have content from MoneroCon, conference from Monerotopia. So it really will be Monero's biggest weekend yet. We've seen the transaction count go up, right, in years past. Even, I think, the first Monerotopia in Miami. And
do we know if it's related to, I guess it's maybe hype around something and not necessarily like transactions actually happening at
I think it's just more attention on Monero itself, right? So like maybe, right? More people are trying to obtain it at that time.
This crypto has a real life conference. That's a good sign.
Right. And obviously transactions actually happening at the conference. Obviously, that's not an overwhelming amount where it's tens of thousands of transactions. But one of these days, right? Like, we should get to the point where
there's definitely hundreds at Monerotopia.
Yeah, definitely hundreds. People are spending Monero all day long at Monerotopia. I know I am.
I did several times.
I can't use my wallet like fast enough. It's like, I'll take that from Monero. And just wheeling and dealing with people, giving people money back. It's just there's a lot of it just being transacted at the conference. So that's what I'm saying. At PorcFest, though, PorcFest is just as, in terms of Monero transactions, there's just as many at PorcFest, maybe more. I mean, we have a lot of vendors at Monerotopia, but there's a lot, and there's a lot of spenders, right? Because everybody that's attending. Is like has crypto or gold back, so people go there to actually use. Doug, will you run again? Nah, I don't think so. I don't think that would ever happen or ever make
Bawdy
sense.
said Trump would try to primary him.
I can make so much more progress doing what I'm doing, working on all the Monero projects I'm working on. I don't think it would ever make sense unless war is declared against Monero here in the U.S. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. I feel like we're moving in the opposite direction, but maybe I'll be unpleasantly surprised. I don't know.
Waiting for the 9/11/2 to happen.
Yeah,
really breaks all of this down and really sets a line between the crypto that's okay and the ones that aren't.
Yeah, that is probably how things are going to go down. Some false flag event.
The cyber attack from China.
The cyber attack that's going to go viral. It's going to be like COVID, but on the internet. Shut it all down.
See, because everyone's waiting for this now, it's not going to happen. It's just going to be this very slow, controlled, concise, subversive sort of movement towards further regulating these industries.
Yeah. One way or another, they move in that direction, right? And so if they see, they take advantage of whatever happens, whether things are created by entities and fabricated, or these events happen and they just take advantage of them. And either way, events like this are there's bound to be incidents, right? There's going to be some hack again where Monero is used to pay off a ransom and they shut down an airport. I don't know. They cut off that gas line. That was pretty big, right? And what was the response that came out of that? I mean, was there any active crackdown in response to that? I'm trying to remember. Remember, the Colonial Pipeline, and then crypto was used for the ransom.
I don't remember the details of that.
So events like that, and then next thing you know, it's like we need digital IDs, and all transactions need to be KYC'd. We need to remove, these cryptos from exchanges. It is possible for things to go that way. But according to Trump, Trump's executive order has us moving in the other direction. So I'm hopeful. I do think it's up to us to do more, right? That's why I keep saying let's get rid of the bit license here in New York. Let's get Monero on exchanges. People are like, no, we don't want that. I think that we need to push to normalize it. And now is the time. It's it's springtime in crypto land. Now is the time to really go for it, because there'll be winter again when a new administration comes in and they're trying to crack down. So I say take advantage of these times and normalize Monero, normalize digital cash, and make it clear that it's not illegal to use. It shouldn't be illegal for exchanges to list it. It shouldn't be ever considered illegal for developers to develop open source code that provides this utility. Make all those things abundantly clear and use it out in the open. Obviously, don't tell everybody what you're doing with Monero, but show that that there's nothing wrong with using Monero, and get exchanges to list it so more people have access to it. Dude, all the time, you guys don't understand. I don't know why nobody's listening to me. I am at the forefront here. Nobody tries to grow Monero adoption more than I do. And in New York, it's impossible to do. I talk to people all the time. I'll get them to accept tips. I'll get them to download CakeWallet. But I have people, and I get them interested, and they want to take action. They want to. They want to buy thousands of dollars worth of Monero. Now, what do you tell them to do? And they're sitting there, and they're like, so which one is it on Coinbase? Oh, it's not on Coinbase. Oh, okay. So how do I get it? What do I got to do? They still want to do it. And then you say, you could download, you got to download this wallet called CakeWallet, and it has an instant exchange built into it. And then you could buy your Litecoin. And now it's okay, that's cool. That's cool, bro. You lose them. You lose them. And so these are normies that want to obtain some Monero, and you get them in it. They get it. And then, they'll learn. They'll learn to pull it off the exchange, but not having that easy on-ramp has really stifled the growth of Monero. And there's a lot of people out there that are spinning that as a good thing. I don't think it is. I don't think it. We've managed to build outside of the system, yes, and that is beautiful and that's fantastic. But we shouldn't be advocating for disconnecting ourselves from the easy on-ramps, from dollars into Monero, from cash into Monero, from people's bank accounts into Monero. And Monero still works as designed, because once they pull that Monero off the exchange, it went into a black hole, right? Yes, some company, some government knows you now owned X amount of Monero at one point in time, but they don't know what you've done with it thereafter, and then that becomes the best way to move money into crypto in general. And I think that's the message that needs to get out there, and now's the time to strike in terms of getting it listed on exchanges. I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday in the gym, and they person genuinely wanted to get some Monero, and it just became like, bro, here's, you literally show me, here's what I got. He's like show me his Coinbase. I got some Bitcoin. I got some, they don't take it as seriously as we do around here. He doesn't even know really the differences. He's like, and I got some Solana. I just got the main ones, diversifying. I don't really, what do you think, man? Is that good? And I'm telling him about Monero, the difference. Like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like that's here to stay. How do I get it? Which one is it? It's not. Oh, it's not there. It definitely hurts adoption. I don't know, Tux.
I mean, Kraken. Unless you live in the state of New York.
You can't access Kraken in the state of New York. He knew Kraken. He's like, oh yeah, but I can't. I can't use that. Doug B like Janet Appleseed and plant XMR into those people's wallets for real. For real. Binghamton, New York it's gonna become an historic place that people visit, and this is where Monero blossomed in New York at the Monero Motel.
GG tip 25 cents. You guys are great. Thank you for all the work you do. Last Monerotopia was so cool. Monero all the way. Thanks, JJ. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, Monerotopia was fantastic. We had some drama, unfortunately. I mean, all these things, as these conferences get larger, they're going to continue to have drama. But we want to keep it as open, as accessible as possible, allow different privacy tech projects to participate, while trying to avoid having any speech present that literally isn't productive to the cause of growing digital cash. So we had a little bit of that last year. So we'll try to trim that out. But other than that, I mean, I think the conference was freaking fantastic. And we'll be doing it in Mexico City again. One last time, at least. One last time. After that, we'll see. All right. Moving on. Let's get Bawdy up here. Remsi, you're not a real Monero Chad unless you like and share this video. 100%, guys. Like, share. We got 123 live viewers. Like, share, retweet. Let's boost the numbers. Let's bring Bawdy up here. It's been an interesting week. I think everything's going according to Bawdy's predictions. Bawdy's steering the entire market. Let's bring Bawdy up here and see where we're headed.
All right, let's do it.
The Monerotopia Price Report segment is sponsored by Exolix, a privacy-focused, non-custodial instant crypto exchange. Go to Exolix.com to enjoy secure and completely anonymous swaps with no KYC or sign-up. Swap between Monero and 2,000 plus assets at the most competitive rates and with no limits. Exolix.com, your fast and secure way to privacy.
Yo.
Oh.
GM Bawdy.
I think Bawdy literally is flying a plane as we speak.
Yeah, okay. I thought that I heard some. I don't know what that is.
There we go. I just turned your background.
Bawdy's headed to Antarctica as we speak.
Reduction on, so I think you sound a lot better. But let's turn you down just a little bit.
He's going to report live. Sound only, no video.
Let's see. Echo cancellation, reduce background noise. Yeah, I mean, I've got those things on. That's weird. I haven't changed it.
Yeah, I just turned that one on. It sounds better now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, how's it going, guys?
It's going well, man. It's going well. How you doing?
Good. Just enjoying the zoo, the circus,
Yeah.
clown world.
I'm waiting for this big dip. Like I want to see some mega dip in Bitcoin.
I don't know if you
that'd
do
be fun.
traditional investments, but yeah, the S&P went back down. People are getting kind of worried. Nothing major still. Like nothing's broken just yet, but sitting waiting patiently. We'll see if it comes or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll hear all about it. But if the floor falls through there, then it's definitely falling through on crypto as well, right? I mean, I'm sure you'll get to all that.
Yeah, you gotta believe that would be the case.
I mean, if anything could hold Monero, not that it won't go down, but it will have a solid floor at some right, like at 112 or whatever it is. Like, it's not Monero is or it might I'm sure you'll get into.
Dude, 100 flat was that very, very, very solid price floor after the Binance listing last year. It would not go.
Yeah, it
wouldn't stick below 100. So that was.
Yeah, without like some kind of nuclear economic whatever, like it's hard to think Monero's going to go anywhere below 100.
Yeah.
And now I think it wouldn't go below. I mean, I'm sure Bawdy could pull some charts that would maybe play into where it might level off to, but.
Yeah, man, I could do some astrology. I could read the leaves, tell you where the floor could be. Yeah.
Yeah. An Arctic always says that if Monero is going to when Monero climbs against Bitcoin, it's going to be in a bear market. I think that's a pretty good theory.
Yeah, I mean, we're on a pretty sustained pullback here for crypto and for Bitcoin and Monero. Just it's not exactly making new highs, but I mean, it's kind of a stable coin at its new center point of like 215.
We shall see. Tell us all about it.
All
right,
wait,
we do have a comment here. Is this for Knockery tip 25 cents at 1 cent per transaction to double the transaction amount in June per day, which implies plus 30,000 transactions is just $300. By the way, a bunker phone may have been upgraded, which was presented on the show. Long live open hardware without the Intel ME or AMD PSP. What's a bunker phone? By the way, a bunker phone may have been upgraded, which was presented on the show. I don't know what that is. But yeah, I mean, good point. If everybody just sent like mini transactions, we could pump transaction count that way. Wouldn't cost more than a couple $100.
It would be nice if we could get some CPUs that weren't backdoored with the Intel ME, as you mentioned. I mean, you can get an old laptop before that came along, but yeah, the Intel management engine, it's like, I mean, it's supposed to be like this trusted computing startup to make sure that you're not getting like firmware backdoored, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of a black box, and hypothetically they could use it to just take over your
At this point, I would strongly argue you're doing more harm to your own security by trying to disable those things for modern computers than to just leave them on. There's a lot of important firmware security features that come from those, and yeah, some of them are black boxes. It's not ideal, but that's just the way it is.
What is this bunker phone he's talking about? Tux, you know what?
I have no idea. I've never heard of this.
Bunker phone.
Sidetrack.
As far as the ME, are you talking about like Spectre and Meltdown, like attacks like that, where?
No, just like things like having a proper secure enclave, verified boot, things like that that utilize these small chips now. Because like the PSP, like the AMD PSP, and nowadays Intel ME are part of like a larger system that includes like a TPM and does other tasks in a more secure way. But yeah, I mean, there's some, they can be black boxes, and there's like Intel's had like undocumented instructions on their CPUs before, like unsurprisingly, and they don't disclose the source code for, like the OS that Intel ME is running on, stuff like that. So it just depends.
It's one of those things that, like, I mean, my personal opinion, I guess, or kind of whack opinion, whatever. there probably is backdoors in that shit. Like they could probably take over just about any CPU, but it probably takes some really dedicated level of attack or penetration by the deep state to actually do that. Like it's not like they've just backdoored everyone's stuff simultaneously, casually, dragnet. It's probably more like, yeah, they could do it, but it's not exactly easy. So they'd have to basically target you hardcore to do it.
Potentially, but if you're thinking about it in that way, you have way more. You've got way more to worry about in the user space than being concerned about some very low level component potentially pwning you. Like if this is actually your threat model, you've got a lot of work to do in the user space to really lock that down. Then before it's even worth being super concerned about some low level component that you don't have any control over.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's a sidetrack. Please take it away, Bawdy.
Okay. Okay. So we're looking here at the Monero price. We're looking at the 4 hour. You can see that after a couple months of upward movements, we don't really look at the 4 hour too much here. So I want to show you guys the little bit more near term. So basically, we're going to be range bound here in this area for some time. Most likely, I mean, again, all bets are off if things decide to go whack, if they decide to go crazy. But overall, you might be able to trade this range now. You'll notice we got up into the very near term upper standard deviation bands. If we get back down here, then you could probably go long on that and maybe just trade some of that oscillation. That seems overall in Monero trading the narrow range, right? Monero has been fairly range bound for years now. So generally speaking, trading the range has been quite the profitable proposition if you're so inclined to trade Monero. So yeah, if if you're worried about Monero's price, don't be. We're crushing it, or at least we're stable. We're back to our stable coin levels, just a bump higher. That's all. So yeah, good things there. You can see that in the Bitcoin versus Monero ratio. We're on our way up here as well. Basically setting new, maybe not local highs, but bumping up against those same highs. Overall, this looks like this looks like a bullish chart, guys. Like this actually really does look pretty good. You've got the near-term bands that are still holding quite well, right? So these are the upper standard deviation bands, and those guys. Let's go down to the 4 hour. This would make more sense on the 4 hour. There we go. So you have the somewhat longer term bands that have acted as a little bit of a capping spot, a little bit of resistance area, but you still see the more short term upper standard deviation bands in blue, and basically that is continuing to hold. It's continuing to provide this sort of like channel for Monero to have this like upward movement against Bitcoin. So right now, I would still expect a little bit of consolidation, but it's kind of like consolidation that's knocking up against that glass ceiling. Not to imply that Monero has a glass ceiling, but maybe it does. Right, so maybe something like this, a little bit of consolidation towards the upside, and then perhaps a break. Right, just looking at in a purely technical sense, that's kind of what I might expect for the ratio here on Monero versus Bitcoin. Realistically, when we incorporate some of the other stuff here, I'm not super duper confident that that's how things have to play out. But if you just wanted to use the technical tool that we're using and use it in isolation, you could do that, and there definitely is some merit to using technical tools in isolation. You just take the emotion out of it, you take the human element out of it, and then you just say, okay, I'm just going to trade algorithmically, and people can have success with that, especially if you stick to your rules and you have a market profile or a market regime that supports your current level. The thing about algorithmic trading that trips people up is that usually it breaks down during like major market changes, right? Big, massive changes in the regime. So for example, if you're in a bear market and you're algorithmic trading successfully, well, if that stops and reverses going into a bull market, well, you might have to adjust your algos. Obviously, things like macro crashes and other major adjustments to the economy can sort of break your assumptions that were causing good algorithmic trading for you. Anyways, that's a little bit of a side trail there. I mean, I imagine that probably most likely Monero is going to find effectively it's going to do some consolidation continuing at this current level with a little bit of upside kind of pressure towards it. So I do expect we'll probably see the ratio climbing just a little bit, little by little, until we get any kind of real breakage or movement in the larger markets. I would expect this chart to continue to be moderately bullish. When it comes to the XMR Ethereum ratio, I don't even know why we should look at Ethereum anymore. I mean, personally, I think the chain does a lot of stuff. There's vastly more wrapped Bitcoin traded on Ethereum layer 2s than is traded in Bitcoin layer 2s. So Ethereum actually does vastly more volume and has a whole lot more stuff in ecosystem than Bitcoin does. Yet Bitcoin has the price. And so that's kind of like one of those things that you got to say, all right, the maximalist, it sounds like y'all had at least one thing, right? You know, you had your price, and we all know that they hang their hat on price, right? They hang their hat on having the number go up. And it's like, okay, well, you know, where's the usefulness, guys? Where's all the stuff you promised us? Anyways, Monero's doing quite well versus Ethereum lately. Let's go to the weekly, this chart, get a bit more context. Realistically, you know, we're not, you know, we could be doing better, right? I've seen better. I'd like to be up here. I'd like to be another 2 to 3x higher in Monero price versus Ethereum, which would put us at about $600, maybe $700, which is probably where our price really should be, absent the fuckery and all the crazy stuff, you know, the attacks against the price that we have talked about for so long, fractional reserve, delistings, etc. But it is what it is, you know, and you fight the battles as best you can, and you know, I think it forced us all to keep strong will and a good head and proper vision over what we're doing here and what the point of all this is. Let's see. I guess we could look at the Monero dominance. Sure, why not? Monero dominance doing pretty good. Again, doing that consolidation kind of thing in the upper standard deviation bands. This is almost the same chart as a Bitcoin dominance, or sorry, as Monero versus Bitcoin, especially since Bitcoin dominance continues to dominate. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on what flavor of listener you are. I know some of you guys are more of the Bitcoin persuasion, and some of you guys are more of the not Bitcoin persuasion. Personally, right now, I'm kind of the not Bitcoin persuasion. It's just annoying that it's not useful. It's like, okay, why is it getting all? Why should we be happy about market cap and mind share going to this coin that is not useful for actual digital freedom money? Like, it's a speculative asset. Okay, great. There's a lot of speculative assets, and okay, there's some freedom involved there. I'm glad it exists. It's better that it exists than not exist. But like, where's the actual usefulness for the world except for adding to corporate balance sheets and speculating that your bags go higher? Like, can we actually get some real usefulness? Whatever. Yet I digress. Okay, let's go to the Monero transaction counts. We're basically sitting here the same as we always have, just below that 30K number. I also added the Zcash transaction counts in here. There's been, as Doug and Tux noted early on the show, there has been some infighting and consternation between the privacy community and the quote unquote privacy community. I'm just playing Zcash. Obviously, they're the one in quotes. Yeah, I mean, they don't really have a whole lot of transactions. You know, this is kind of one of those externalities. You could say, listen, there's no reason why there couldn't be more transactions on Zcash. There's no reason why there couldn't be more shielded transactions on Zcash. There just aren't. And I think it's, you know, obviously it's the whole history behind everything. It's like, guys, you know, it just didn't, like, there was just too much corporate, too much sus, too much, you know, I could tolerate a little bit of that, but it seems like they took it too far. You know, it's like, I can deal with a pre-mine. If you want to do like a 5% pre-mine, I can be like, all right, you know, you got to develop the coin somehow. And even though Monero was strong enough and awesome enough to figure out how to do it without a pre-mine, and proves that it can be done, I could still understand a little tiny pre-mine, but I can't understand a 20% dev tax ad infinitum in perpetuity. So that's kind of problematic. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, okay, Zcash transactions sitting here about like just above 2,000, like 2,500 maybe. And I don't know how many of those are actually shielded. I don't know how those numbers may have changed. If anyone wants to sing out and tell me what's up with that. All right, let's see. Oh, we can check the hash rate too. Let's undo Zcash and then we go to the hash rate. How many gigas are we getting today? Man, it's doing this. All right, whatever. Okay, so we're looking at about 4 giga hashes per day. Spiking up all the way to about 4.5, at least according to this chart. I know some other charts measure it slightly different and have like slightly different numbers, but ish, this is the number ish. So cool, good stuff. Privacy altcoins. Yeah, I don't want to call them shitcoins. They're not doing very good. They're all kind of falling. Let's see here. I guess Zcash actually is doing the best in the past week as of the last price report that we did. It's made a little bit of a bump up here. Maybe some of that extra attention that they're getting on Twitter has caused a little bit of some of these green candles here. So Yeah, but not really doing too much. Let's see. Let's actually measure that. Wow, 30%. Man, this coin oscillates like crazy. Like if you want to trade, this is probably not a terrible coin to trade. That's a 30% increase this week. Oh yeah, now I get it. That one dude, I won't mention his name because I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm like, all right, it seems like he's shilling. I don't know why he's being so contentious about all of it, but he is. Anyways, he was like, oh yeah, Zcash has gone up X amount in the past month, and Monero hasn't. That's like, okay, bro. Like, but then why don't you look at the full history, and why don't you like contextualize that analysis instead of cherry picking to try and make a point? Like, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, let's see. I'll show you Xano. I said I promised I would stop commenting on this. I promised myself more than anybody that I would stop commenting on Xano, but I will still show you the chart. I'll still show you the wave magic. You guys can draw your own conclusions from what this chart looks like and what kinds of plans of mice and men might be made here in the trading of this chart. Maybe Roger's watching and maybe he's determining if he's going to sell more bags or not. I don't know. Just kidding, bro. I have no idea what your bags look like in Xano. Anyways, there's the Xano chart. Thero not doing so great either. Pirate Chain, it's just kind of like waddling downwards effectively. Yeah, okay, whatever. Just really not much to be said about those charts. Let's go to the overall crypto markets. We'll start with the Z scores because Z scores have a little bit more cause for celebration. You'll notice Monero, we had a light up movement this past week, but the rest of crypto kind of went up and then down. But Monero went more up than down. So our Z scores overall are looking better than the rest of the market, which are all below zero at this point, at least from the 100-day perspective, right? So this is a 100. We're doing a calculation back 100 candles. We're on the daily, so technically this is a 100-day look back, and we're comparing each asset to how it's doing relative to its own moving average. So it centers around zero, and then you use the standard deviation to determine how well it's doing relative to its own moving average. So Z-score is a very common thing to use in all types of processes where you have to compare disparate numbers and you want to overlay them and see them together. So Monero overall, relatively speaking, doing better than everything else. Bitcoin doing actually shockingly what I what I predicted it would do last week, sort of off the cuff. When I was like, I don't know, let me just give you some random prediction here. I basically predicted we'd come up to the top of the lower standard deviation band and then have troubles and pull back. So basically, that's exactly what happened. We hit the 89,000 level pretty much, and then pulled back. So Bitcoin's sitting right here now. That's definitely good for probably a swing long. I don't know for how long that would be a good swing long, but that doesn't. I mean, the way that this structure here is set up on the Wave Magic, this thing doesn't have to hold for very long. Like Bitcoin could totally break down from here pretty easily. I don't think necessarily it's going to break down from here immediately. We have 2 days of weekend before the markets open for everything else. And obviously, since now Bitcoin is basically a BlackRock asset traded with ETFs and normies on the stock market, obviously there's a big factor there, a much larger factor for normal trading hours than in the past. Anyways, yeah, this is according to quote unquote Wave Magic, which is again this like standard deviation overlay that I've told you guys about over and over again, and was very, very reticent to even share. Honestly, like it was like a year I had this and I just wouldn't share it because it's fucking magic. It really is, guys. Anyways, bounced off exactly where do you expect. This thing is going to have maybe a little bit of bounce. Who knows to where? Maybe the moving average cluster. Maybe not. Let's drop into a little bit lower time frames and maybe I can give you some more tea leaves, crystal ball predictions here. Tell you exactly what's going to happen. No, that's not really useful. Let's go down to the 5 minute. All right. I don't know if you guys want to put in some 5 minute trades. Maybe you can make some profit before the end of the show. Yeah. Okay. So this thing is basically done with its down movement temporarily from the 5 minute context. But this thing could still come back up to the upside. Yeah. So this swing trade is in play. If you had managed to catch it, at the very bottom, it's hard to catch things at the very bottom. Now I don't have any opinions. All right, we'll stop doing stupid 5 minute charts. How degenerate can we be? All right, let's go to Bitcoin dominance. This thing is actually still in this upward channel. It pretended it was going to break down. I had my fingers crossed. It was time for alt season, and it never came. Alt season has basically left us the crying Doge. Doge crying with his tears, with his salty tears. Buff Doge is now deflated. There are no altcoins. They're all dying. Bitcoin is crushing everything. A la BlackRock and the others. This is also continues to look like a bullish chart. This continues to make like bullish developments. Like this here on the short term, at least, that's kind of like a rising wedge. This thing feels like it's about to break towards the upside, do that, and then, maybe do that or something. So it's still on the larger context. Let's go to like the 3-day chart. I don't want to go to the weekly because it's a little bit too long. But on the 3-day chart, on the larger context, you can see that this is the first time that Bitcoin has actually visited these upper standard deviation levels. Typically with these charts, what you'll see is some big washout, consolidation, reversal, whatever. You typically are not going to come to the just from the purely TA standpoint, right? Just purely from the wave magic analysis. You're typically not going to come straight to these bands and then immediately beat them and start going to the heavens, right? And I know that's what all the Bitcoin maximalists wish would happen, hyper Bitcoinizations, which probably is never going to happen, especially since you can't actually do any transactions on the chain. But you don't really expect this chart to just like come here and then smash towards the upside and then keep going forever. Like at best, it'll spike up above here, like wick above here, and then come back down, consolidate some more, and then go up. But and if we have a big macro crash, you could probably expect something like that would happen. Like you actually do expect to get to wick above this chart because people are going to flee to the safety, quote unquote, safety of Bitcoin, at least relative to altcoins. That's what's going to happen. That's basically what happens in macro crashes, right? People flee to safety or whatever they think is going to be the safety. So let's see here. Let's talk about Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So I just want to highlight how wrong I was on this fucking chart. So maybe this thing can come back at some point. Like it hasn't set lower lows relative to the last bear market. So it's actually still here, potentially could set a low down here and then move back towards the upside. But at this point, it's difficult to think that Ethereum is going to be able to gain market cap parity with Bitcoin if we get a presumed bull market, right? It just seems unlikely, very unlikely at this point. You've got Solana where a lot of like the market cap degeneracy flows into meme coins and just nonsense. So Sol has stolen a lot of what Ethereum used to handle in that regard. People just wanted to put their memes on chain. That's, I think, ultimately that's the answer here. Like that is the answer, is that in the last bull market, people I can't remember what it was called, but there was like some major, is it something ocean? It's not DigitalOcean, something ocean. Doesn't matter. People were putting memes onto somebody else's server and then having some number that is like peripherally related to the hash by some signature. And people, that was too esoteric. It was too abstract. It was too retarded. It was too autistic, even for the autists that love meme coins. So ultimately, what people realized is they wanted to put their memes on chain, especially once we got ordinals and people were like, wait, I can smash those memes directly onto Bitcoin. But you're like Ethereum doesn't support that, because Ethereum actually supports layer 2 ecosystems, which are massive now. They're like billions and billions and billions of dollars. Like that's what Ethereum is doing. They're actually a solid chain for supporting layer 2s, but nobody wants to put their memes on layer 2. They want to put it on layer 1. So that's why you got Solana. Solana sucked a lot of that degenerate market cap from Ethereum. That's just, it is what it is, guys. And I missed it. So I just want to highlight that again. I don't think I can even 50% say now at this point that Ethereum is going to come back, is going to make market cap parity with Bitcoin in the next bull market. So yeah, so I mean, it'll come back. It'll still do pretty good. You could probably expect it to get back to near its, the previous all-time high of the bull market, depending on how badly this sell-off continues. It's been pretty bad. So anyways, yep, just covering that for you guys. One thing I wanted to do actually was Bitcoin versus gold. So BTC USD divided by USD. Yep. Okay, so we're on the weekly here. Let's go to the daily. Daily would look better. Or maybe daily would not look better. Let's go to the 3-day. Yeah, all right. Yeah, we haven't looked at Bitcoin versus gold for a while, and the reason we're looking at this obviously is that gold is just on a tear. Like gold is just crushing it. It's just really, really crushing it. So yeah, here we go. Here we have let's just look from the last peak, the last bull market until now. Let's see here. Sorry, charts being slow. I don't know if you guys can see this. I don't think I have the right wave magic on there. Yeah, there we go. Those lines are brighter. Hopefully you guys can see that now. Okay. So effectively what we have, Bitcoin relative to gold has kind of just barely put on a new all-time high, but only marginally, right? Let's take a little measurement there. And you can see that Bitcoin has only outperformed gold to about 9 or 10% from the last bull market, from the last peak, the last top. it's still, like, generally speaking, this is still a bullish chart. So you would still say that, technically speaking, Bitcoin has momentum versus gold to continue, trying to rise. But it's funny because everyone's like, Bitcoin is an inflation hedge. Gold has been quite the inflation hedge lately as well. Although it's interesting because if we look at gold versus the S&P, it's actually just like holding steady. Like those two charts are just equal now. So gold is going up the same as the S&P, relatively about the same as much as Bitcoin. Not quite as much, obviously, because Bitcoin has the volatility. But overall, like gold has been, at least from the 2021, 2022 era, gold has been about as good an inflation hedge as Bitcoin over very long time frames. So I found that interesting. I was just looking at this chart. I don't know if this tells you if you should buy gold or Bitcoin at the current moment. Probably it kind of tells you it doesn't really matter. So wouldn't it be funny? Like, okay, let me propose this. Wouldn't it be funny if Bitcoin actually ended up just being an inflation hedge and not the speculative asset? Because that's what you hear all the time. They're always like, it's an inflation hedge, and what they're really saying is it's a speculative asset that goes up a shitload in value, and someone else will buy your bags at a much higher price. That's what they're really saying. But they say it's inflation hedge. Wouldn't it be hilarious if the speculative component came out of Bitcoin because it's finally peaking out on its speculative usage, and instead just becomes an inflation hedge like gold, right? A counter risk kind of asset. In which case, Bitcoin would go up about the same amount as gold does. And you would see a lot of cope. I hope that happens. That would be funny. It could actually become digital gold, maybe. It's still not fungible, so it probably actually couldn't, but just playing with some ideas there. Okay, let's go to the macro. Let's check out what's happening with the macro. We'll start with oil because we've been starting with oil. It still had its kind of like run up here, and it's kind of got stopped out at the obvious level, right? The effectively this area here, this uptrend area right here. It's basically fell out of trend, came up here to test the underside of it. I suppose I would predict, along the macro crash, that this thing is now going to come back to the downside. That would be a very clear sign if you see early next week, if this thing comes down, or anytime next week, if this thing comes down to the downside and starts doing that. What could drive that? Trump is going to have a big announcement. Actually, he's announced an announcement, so he's like definitely on the crypto train at this moment. He has announced the announcement that on Wednesday, April 2nd, not April 1st, doesn't want to fool the market or anything, April 2nd, he is going to announce a new round of reciprocal tariffs. Now, what that means exactly is anybody's guess, because if you just naively and blindly implement reciprocal tariffs, okay, so China charges us X amount of tariffs, so we're going to charge China X amount on tariffs. Well, what China's going to do is ship those goods to some other country first, slap, I don't know, some other country label on it, and then ship it to the United States for lower tariffs, right? That's how that's going to happen. So, I don't know how maybe they intend to get around that. And that happens with a lot of goods, guys. Like when you see, like, there's so much shit that's like made from here, like olive oil from, I don't know, the Sicily. A lot of times it's like olive oil made in Greece or Spain or somewhere, and then they ship it, they bottle it in Sicily, and then they say product of Sicily, right? And it's like the whole product of thing is fairly ambiguous, so it doesn't tell you necessarily. Anyways, yet I digress. The point is that we're all wondering, everyone's asking, okay, what do you mean reciprocal tariffs? What exactly are you going to implement? How harsh is this going to be for America and the global economy? And so the question is here, if there are significant tariffs that get implemented, you have to expect somewhat of a slowdown in the global economy. And if there's a slowdown in shipping, that requires less oil. And if it requires less oil, what do you think that might do to the price of oil? Yeah. So depending on how harsh and severe things might be, on Wednesday, we could potentially see a reversal here in oil, and that would make a lot of sense. The other thing too to think about, that like, at the risk of believing the geopolitical stage too much, hypothetically, if you wanted to force Putin and Russia back to the table to like do some kind of peace treaty with Ukraine, what do you need? You need to hit them economically, because you can't really hit them with bombs. We don't really do that anymore. But if you crush the price of oil and Putin's currency, the ruble, doesn't have, right, has much less value, because Russia's currency is significantly based on oil. They're an oil exporter, massive oil economy, and raw materials in general. If you have a lower price of oil, that's going to hit their currency pretty hard and make it difficult for them, and he might be forced to come back to the table. So again, kind of at the risk there of taking that geopolitical stage, of giving it credence. I give it about half credence, right? Like there's real things happening there geopolitically. On the other hand, they're also kind of in these back rooms sometimes, like making these negotiations and like, hey, I don't know, I have some old military equipment. You have old military equipment. It's about to be decommissioned. Why don't we just have ourselves a little proxy skirmish for a few years, get rid of the old shit, then we can like justify new budgets to do new shit, and we can play with our new toys and whatnot. Like that kind of shit really does happen, guys. Like it's I just cannot believe that there like deals like that aren't made. But they're also still competing for power, right? Again, frenemies. That's what's going on here. So yeah, those are kind of factors that could affect the oil price. I know that's kind of long-winded. Hopefully that's, again, it's just context, right? I'm just trying to give you guys like things to think about, context, how does stuff interweave together, interwork together in the economy. Right now, this pattern would suggest, just from a tea leaf standpoint, just from a TA standpoint, this should go down next week. That's kind of what I would expect. Let's take a look at the wave magic here and see if it reveals anything to us. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, this is basically a downtrend, right? The wave magic is basically downtrending. So you can see the very long-term bands here, the lower standard deviation bands, they're already floating towards the downside. You have the secondary short-term bands that are also kind of meandering towards the downside. This gives you a channel to kind of like basically do something like that. So that's oil right there. And again, if you're seeing, and we talked about this before, we'll say it again. Let's go back to, let's get rid of the wave magic. And let's get rid of these lines. Sorry. I know I hate dead space, right? Dead space is no good. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about this right here. This is yellow zone. We're still in the yellow zone. It's like, hey, shit's like, be careful. Like, just be aware. Shit could be going down soon. And down here is red zone. This is like, hey, shit's actually about to go down. Sell your positions, get short, right? So again, if you see below $60 on oil, if you see multiple daily closes happening down there below $60, that's your sign that, hey, things are probably actually like starting to really, truly break down. Until then, it's still kind of like, yeah, maybe not, right? Like you could, hypothetically, things might not be quite breaking down yet in the yellow zone. So anyways, hopefully that makes sense for you guys. Going to reverse repos now. Again, this is money parked with the Federal Reserve overnight, just to give you a bigger, broader picture. Here's what happened with the bear market. Going back to 2021, you can see the reverse repos. People were parking money into the safety of the Federal Reserve, the overnight Federal Reserve, and getting the overnight Federal Reserve funds rate, right? So about 4.5% right now. Back then it was lower, but people were parking money with the Federal Reserve back in 2021, even as the bull market was still on, right? Even as new higher highs were being made, you were getting shitloads of money, smart money, getting out of risk and getting into safety of parking money with the Fed. And this has significantly fueled the bull market that we've seen over the course of the past few years. So right now, what we had talked about is that, again, if you're starting to see an uptrend, if you're starting to see institutions get fearful and start to move money into reverse repos, that's a negative sign for the economy, right? That's a negative sign that, hey, things could be getting ready for a crash, right? Because smart money moves before dumb money. So we finally seen something that actually does look like an uptrend here. We have an uptrend more or less confirmed. It's not super strong. It's still short term. It's just a few months, but again, we're looking, will this keep going towards the upside? Are we going to see a real sustained uptrend? Over the next week or so, seeing a real sustained uptrend is a sign that yes, the macro crash is on, or at least negativity in general is on, and that you really need to be looking to protect yourself. Okay, so those are I guess two main signals there that we look at a lot. There's nothing to look at for the dollar index. I just don't see anything that's super useful telling us about the macro all that much. But gold, I mean, holy crap, gold is just crushing it, guys. Gold is continuing to ride these purple bands to victory. Things are looking really, really solid for gold. We're actually starting to really getting pretty close to the very large area that I've talked about for a while. So basically $3,500 gold. This is such a headliner issue. Headliner spot. It would be really hard for me to not sell a significant chunk of gold at $3,500. Now, with the way things are going, maybe you could just bust through that level. It very much could, I suppose. I do feel like we are kind of in this moment that sort of resembles the 1970s and 80s, where they had the inflation and gold was floating, and then gold had this massive reevaluation. And then you've also got, think about it too. You've got a lot of the MAGA people, a lot of the conservatives, and the libertarians already like gold, but you've got a lot of MAGA conservatives that are realizing the value of gold, right? I've seen it in normies, and they're like, yeah, they like the gold. So anyways, yeah, that's gold continuing to perform. Going to continue to let my gold ride, not doing anything here just yet. And then in the more near term and a little bit shorter term picture, again, we're looking to tag this purple band that continues to rise. Currently, that sits at about 3,200. So that's probably like right here is a spot that I would probably think about maybe selling some gold again. Always depends on how things look once you get there in real time. Always depends on like what does the rest of the situation look like once we tag this spot. Maybe the United States decides to print a shitload of money, right? And you're like, well, hey, gold's going to continue to perform. Maybe it'll do that, right? But anyways, yeah, the point is I'm still long gold. I don't see why you should sell here. I think you should just continue keeping that long in play. Looking really good right there. It seems to be also acting counter-cyclically, not counter-cyclically. It seems to be acting as a risk hedge, right? It's actually being risk. It's a risk-off asset again, finally, kind of, at least along the short term. And what I mean by that is that we can go here to the S&P 500, and you see that, yeah, the S&P 500 is dropped off by about 10%, almost 11%. It made a little comeback last week, but then in the last 3 days, it came back down. And the reason is, again, it's probably the Trump tariffs, reciprocal tariffs announcement on Wednesday. That's probably like the reason. Basically, investors don't want to be holding risk into the weekend. They're worried about what could happen. They it's too risky for them. So like the market made a rebound, and they said, okay, that's good. We had a little bit of profits here, short term. Let's sell that shit and limit our risk going into the weekend, going into Monday, going into April Fools, just in case anyone wants to pull a fast one on the markets. So yeah, things came back to the downside, both the S&P and the NASDAQ, and also for Bitcoin, as we saw. So yeah, people are worried. Like there really is a real fear in the market about, is this it? And again, that's a justified fear, because where is the liquidity going to come from to pump these markets higher and higher? A lot of it was built on the AI craze. A lot of it's built on these new loans created for these AI companies. And then DeepSeek comes along and like just crushes crushes the notion of how many GPUs that you need to actually train these things. And so suddenly there's this question over, do you really need that many GPUs and need that much compute resources? What's going to happen to all these loans? Here's another thing, guys. Every time we see a new, and this is a broader perspective, every time we see some new technology, some new big thing hit the market, you get massive expansion, let a million flowers bloom, and then you get some sort of big crash that wipes everything out, and everything gets consolidated to some small set of corporations to control that. And you have a shitload of AI companies trying to do a whole bunch of cool stuff and launch their thing, whatever. And at some point, there needs to be a destruction, right? A creative destruction. It's probably how the Keynesians would think of this. A creative destruction of all the companies and all the bad investment and all the bad loans, and that needs to get wiped out, and everyone needs to get afraid so that Sam Altman and a few other players can consolidate the market, and that way they can more easily control things. That seems to be like, that doesn't seem to be, that is the pattern that we've seen across all these different industries. It happened with the .com and the internet. It's just continued to happen. So yeah, that's again, just more things to think about there. Where's liquidity going to come from? It does make sense to sort of consolidate a lot of these AI companies and watch them go bankrupt, and then only let a few flowers bloom instead of a million flowers. So yeah, again, just kind of like trying to sort of brainstorm, if you will, about like what's going on with the macro and why we should suspect certain things and not others. And even if this crash doesn't happen now, you can bet at some point there needs to be a consolidation of the AI companies. There needs to be a washout of the malinvestment that was spurred on by all the money printing. So yeah, okay. Bonds didn't actually do anything interesting. It may be slightly interesting. The long-term part of the yield curve went up. So like the 20-year, the 30-year, the 10-year, they actually spiked up, whereas the shorter-term bonds didn't go up at all. So if anything, the shorter-term bonds held flat. So I don't know. I guess maybe you could say people are getting out of long-term bonds and getting into short-term bonds. I don't exactly know how to interpret what's going on here, why the yield curve there. I mean, it's closer, it's normalizing, right? That's a spike up in normalization. But at any rate, the yield curve did not have volatility, and particularly not towards the downside. So again, that would be a counterpoint towards the crash very, very soon thesis, that bonds are not responding in that way, right? But then again, maybe people prefer, maybe institutions will prefer to put money into the reverse repos, right? Perhaps they prefer to put their billions and billions into reverse repos where they can then immediately redeploy that capital, as opposed to having to get into bonds. Although, so if people thought, if institutions did think there was a big crash coming and that the Federal Reserve was going to have to lower rates soon, to rescue a crash, they would be buying long-term bonds, and these long-term bonds rates would be like falling right now. So it might be the case that institutional doesn't actually think that any macro crash is nearby, that any Fed intervention is nearby. Otherwise, you would expect to see these falling more towards the downside. So, yeah, that's, again, it's a counterpoint towards the crash thesis, the fact that the bond market is not showing the kinds of downward volatility that we might expect. But it can happen quickly. It really can happen quickly. So, anyways, I guess overall, I would say I don't expect the macro crash to begin in earnest next week, but it could. It could. We're basically in the window. It could happen. So, I think basically the market's going to hold its breath and wait for Trump to say something on Wednesday, and then see where things go from there. That's probably like the best that we could say in the moment. So, just don't be getting long with big leverage, right? That's mostly my advice there. Just keep your gold longs in play. We could get a little bit of bounce in Bitcoin here. I don't know for how long. And yeah, I guess that's about all I got. That's all I got to say about that, guys. Oh wait, no, there's one more thing. I want to show you the GDP. So we talked about this last week, where like they change the GDP numbers all the time. I guess they changed it weekly because now the GDP for last quarter is down to minus 2.86 or minus 2.8. Whereas last week when we talked, it was like minus 1 point something, like maybe 1.5. And the week before that, it was like minus 4. So this number apparently changes a lot. I guess they made some revisions to it. I don't really pay attention that much to how they revised the GDP, but I don't know. It seems somewhat comical, I guess. To me, it seems a little bit comical, especially in that day and age of all the digital stuff that we have. Like, are they not tracking everything digitally? Like, are they not surveilling your nutsack? And when you buy lotion, like, like, why do they have to change? Why would the GDP change by that much? Maybe reporting or something. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe they have to pretend that they don't see all that stuff. So they're like, they're like, oh, well, we only see X, and so, oh my God, this new thing. We have a new report. We have to adjust the GDP. They knew all along. They just have to pretend like they don't. I don't know. Whatever. That's just like rampant speculation on my part. All right, guys, I don't think I have anything else for you. Hopefully that's just some thoughts. Think about some things you can consider for your own investment decisions over the coming week.
We do got a few super chats. I will go ahead and pull these up. Anon tipped 6 cents. Even if ring sigs can definitely be reduced, the sender and receiver are still completely unknown. This still gives complete anonymity for the identities of the parties involved in the transaction. This is correct. Didn't you ask this last week? The answer was mostly yes. The sender and receiver are, for the most part, completely unknown. The concern comes into play if you've got some poisoned outputs, like if you've got some KYC outputs that they are actively tracing. But yeah, the ring signatures doesn't change the fact that you still have zero knowledge proofs being used to hide the amount through bullet proofs, and then you've also got the stealth addresses in play. So next, we've got a tip from a pseudo, tip 25 cents. He could help audit Monero's attributes and challenges his money. His expertise could help the Monero devs / community direct results for the best success and adoption. 4 out of 5. I don't.
Oh,
no.
Okay. Yeah, so if you go backwards here, his first one, I don't know if you can see it or not. Pseudo Zero said, I think it would be huge if Doug could get Jeff Snyder on as a guest. Yeah, okay. If Doug could get Jeff Snyder on as a guest. Channel is Eurodollar University. He has recently been talking about how Bitcoin has failed as money, but sees blockchain as the future. 1 of 5. Okay. Is there a character limit on XMRchat?
I have no idea, but sorry, pseudo, but all of your super chats look out of our order, and I don't see all of them. Sorry about that, but also 5 super chats is kind of insane.
I love it. I love it. Keep them coming. Keep the super chats coming.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
I love that people are using it so much right now.
MMG tipped 9 cents. Bawdy, have you seen that Space Weatherman moved up the expected timeline of the solar event catastrophe? Were you able to see any of the reasons and verify them? It seems like he uses weird extrapolations at times. Anyway, do you have any thoughts?
I do have thoughts. So I like that this guy, Benjamin, what's his name? I'm blanking on his name at the moment. Anyway, Space Weatherman, I do like that he brings this material to the forefront. He says, hey guys, there's really something going on here. I don't like his extrapolations either. I think like he's always like in the new Valley of the Sun, like in the presumption that basically New Mexico and Colorado are going to be this like new Valley of the Sun. Listen, guys, nobody knows. Nobody fucking knows. If the Earth is literally going to flip on its side because of some sort of core mantle decoupling or mantle crust decoupling, like we don't know. Like we have no way to. There's just like no mechanisms for us to be able to have any reasonable idea of like where the new poles are going to be and how much the Earth is going to shift. What are the mechanisms that causes this to come undone? The Ethical Skeptic has some really cool material where he's saying, hey, you can actually see that there's like this exothermic process happening from the core right now. And you could do some modeling on the basis of the low velocity and different density province, I think they call it. I don't know why they call it a province, but maybe I have that terminology wrong. Anyways, in the mantle, there's this massive area of magma that's lower density. Or maybe it's higher density. I can't remember. Anyways, it causes an asymmetry in the spin of the Earth. And hypothetically, if there was a decoupling there, then yeah, the Earth could flip over on its side. We look at the pyramids. We're like, holy shit, this is water erosion. This is wave action erosion over the course of like 50 to 100 years. And it's like one of the only things that could describe the calcium erosion and deposition at the bottom of the pyramids. And like, it's crazy. The Earth has probably flipped over on its side in the past. We don't know when it's going to happen. It could happen in a few years. It could happen. It could be at the end of our lifetimes. You know, we might be old men by the time this actually happens. So I do like that Space Weatherman brings a lot of this like stuff to the forefront. The studies that I have seen in a lot of cases that it's only been a few of them, but the ones that I've gone and looked at and been like, okay, is this validated? Is this invalidated? He makes these extrapolations that the studies don't say. Like he'll say, this study says this. And it's like, it kind of says that, but not really, not in the way you're presenting it, bro. So yeah, just the people that are like telling you they know when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen and where the new polls are going to be, like they don't know that. Like they don't know that at all. And for the Christian inclined, you know, it's kind of like along the lines of no man knows the day and the hour. And no one, you know, it's like there's this uncertainty. Like there's only one in heaven, right? The Father that knows. Not that I'm necessarily coming here from like the Christian perspective, but I think that if nothing else, like the Christian, the biblical, and other mythologies are instructive in certain ways that we can actually look at, and if looked at in context. Anyways, the point is like, no, I think moving up the timeline is a bit silly. I'm not saying that he'll be wrong, but I'm just saying we don't know.
All right, and I think we have one more. Matuho Tep V tipped 25 cents. One on CakeWallet. My fellow Egyptians agree that having the number of the last current block on the transaction section would be a nice feature. Rumor goes that bunker phones are made by XMR family members. What is this bunker phone? I feel like I may have heard of this before.
Yeah, we got to get somebody with knowledge on that to come up.
Is it just like a Graphene OS Pixel or something?
Because
that's honestly the most secure. That's really the most secure option.
Maybe it should be said, like, again, guys, there are no secure phones. There are no like open source manufacturing, Pine phone, whatever. All of it's insecure, horribly insecure. Your best bet, your absolute best bet, by
is to
far,
use Signal
is to use
on your
Pixel and Graphene. Like that's it. Like don't be foraying off into some new cool open source hardware phone, Librem, whatever. Like it's garbage. It's all garbage and insecure. It's hard. Like, it's really hard to get this stuff right. Just go with
we need JD Vance with the Graphene phone running CakeWallet.
Please no.
And Signal, obviously, as well.
Well, clearly they're already using that, assuming that those leaks are even real and they weren't just put out there.
I know.
On purpose.
Yeah, we'll get to that. It's just like so weird. Oh, we accidentally added a journalist.
But I mean, at the same time,
what the fuck?
At the same time, you know, the government can be very, 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 very incompetent. So it's not like they're this impenetrable force of intelligence at all times.
Yeah, they're just yes. Well,
they are autistic as well.
We'll get to all that.
All right. Thank you very much. But I think it's all the super chats. Oh wait, was this one already read? Oh yeah, that was already read earlier. Okay, I believe that was all.
Who is
super
this
chats.
Jeff Snyder guy? Yeah, if Pseudo, if you want to grab his attention somehow, by all means, please do. I mean, I guess I could try. I don't know him though, Jeff Snyder.
I feel like I've heard his name before, but maybe I'm just hallucinating that.
Yeah, maybe it's like one of those. If you see him, you know. Jeff Snyder, get him on.
I'll go check his stuff out. It sounds like he's a price guy. So.
All right. Shall we move into the new segment?
Let's do it.
So long.
Thank you, Bawdy, as always. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Bawdy. Thank you, Bawdy. Bawdy, I don't think we got your full pyramid take from the last. Was the last show?
Pyramid?
Somebody left a super chat. I think it was after you left, asking your opinion about the pyramid.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I kind of just covered it a second ago. So there's a guy named the Ethical Skeptic on Twitter, and it's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. I don't know if maybe I could pull it up. It might take too long. Keep the show moving, but yeah, effectively the pyramids show very, very clear water erosion, and I don't just mean rain. I mean the ocean was covering them, not covered, but like the ocean had almost covered the pyramids. There's like three parts. There's the bottom part where the ocean like effectively had covered everything, and you get this this dissolving of the I believe it's a calcium carbonate there. And then redeposits that at the base of the pyramids. And you can see that, like, again, very clearly. There's this other parabolic wave action that happens in the middle portion where basically the pounding of the waves removed the most material. And you can see that especially at the corners where you get this parabolic wave action. So in other words, as a wave goes against the flat face of the pyramid, the corners actually rise up higher, and you can see that. And then at the top, you can see there's no water erosion, there's no wave action. It's just flat as if it had been weathered by wind and sand or whatever for thousands of years. And so once you see it, you're like, oh my God, that is that. And that would take 50 to 100 years for that to happen. So it means that salt water, ocean water, was the pyramids are like 138 meters high, at least Khufu, the highest one. It means that the oceans were like 100 meters higher, something like that. Maybe I'm getting the numbers slightly wrong. That's possible. But it means that the oceans were literally like halfway up the pyramids for a period of like 50 to 100 years. And there's no possible way that could happen other than like, I don't know, a comet striking Antarctica and knocking all the ice off. I don't know. Or if the earth flips over, like you just think like, how could that possibly have happened? And it's basically like, it's a kind of this verification in a way of the inundation stories that we've heard across the globe. It's like the most recent cataclysm that almost every single culture has. Like, it's not fire, it's not meteorites, it's not, they're all inundation stories for the most part. And so it's crazy because you look at it, you're like, wait a second. Is it possible that the pole actually flipped on its side? The earth, no shit, the axis of rotation flipped 90 degrees or 100 degrees and then flipped back up. Like it seems like it's a crazy thing to say. But
how about how about the structures that have allegedly been found under the pyramids?
Oh shit, yeah, those two.
Yeah. Well, I mean that screams like what Tesla had alleged, right? That these were devices, used for transmitting energy wirelessly. I mean, it looks like we're moving in that. That would be my guess, without knowing more at this point, which is pretty insane and crazy. But I don't know, buddy. What do you have to say? I mean, obviously, we don't even know if it's real yet. We don't even know if what they found is real.
Supposedly, this group has mapped out other structures successfully, like with reasonably high resolution. So supposedly, I haven't really dug into it for myself, but supposedly they've mapped out other underground structures that were then verified, and they've got like, I don't know, proprietary algorithms. And so, yeah, they're basically these huge columns extend 650 meters below the pyramids. And again, Khufu is like 138 meters tall. So you're talking literally like 5 times the depth of the pyramid. And so, of course, like predictably 100% from the mainstream, they're going to try and debunk it and just dismiss it and be like, it's been debunked, right? So they're not actually interested in the truth of that. They want to hide that if it is true. It seems very plausible to me, and it would leave everything that they say in shambles. Like, if that's true, then you cannot say, it is impossible to say that some slaves stacked a bunch of blocks. They did not dig 650 meters into the ground and create hollow columns, that far down It's just not possible with their technology. It's not even possible probably with our technology. So like, it just means that there was some entities, humans or otherwise, that built those things with technology that we don't have, that's far more advanced than our own, which is kind of what we already knew about the pyramids anyways. Like, people keep trying to deny that.
Yeah,
but
but if this is now it's like there's no argument at this point. There's no
exactly.
Okay, well maybe they just really dug for a long time. Like,
it's like Minecraft, just keep digging down.
I mean, wait, hey, buddy, if you can remove your screen, I just want to add a photo to the screen. Yeah, I mean basically what everybody's seen already, but it is pretty wild. Oh shit.
Right, sorry, I was doing it for you.
Okay. I mean, just to put things into kind of, that's just fucking sick.
And then allegedly those blocks at the bottom, they say that that goes down to a depth of 2 kilometers, that there's actually structures going down to a depth of 2 kilometers.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, like, here's another sort of contextual point. I don't know if you guys heard about Göbekli Temple or Göbekli, I can't pronounce it. Göbekli Tempe, whatever. I think y'all know what I'm saying. It's this site in Turkey where these massive stones that predate anything of the megalith structures, or at least the alleged dating of the megalith structures that we have currently studied. These huge megaliths, rocks are in this site. Well, there are other sites. All these other hills and mounds are either suspected or known to have more archaeologically significant findings there. And then they just planted a shitload of olive trees on top because it's a crime to take out those olive trees to excavate the sites now. And they did that on purpose to try and obfuscate. And so again, you have to stop and say, okay, these guys want to obfuscate archaeology. Why? If they weren't afraid of what would be found there and be published about those sites, they wouldn't do that. They would be like, this is important for humanity. They wouldn't just plant a bunch of olive trees to make it a crime to actually go excavate now. They wouldn't try to cover that shit up. And oh, by the way, the roots are probably going to destroy some of the rocks eventually. Like, they wouldn't do that. So they're hiding something from us. They're hiding our history from us. I think everybody on the show basically knows that, but just kind of random.
So do you think the pyramid, like when you look at even the evidence they have for that, when the Egyptians built these pyramids, it's not anything that strong. Like, they have records of them shipping the stone, right? Like, there was like a logbook found. I think that's like the strongest evidence of showing, when they were shipping the stone. But they could have very well just been like fixing the pyramids at that time, like adding stone to where it had fallen off, and these things are already, thousands of years old or whatever by the time they were like. Do you think the Egyptians were involved in the building of the pyramids, or they're much older?
Almost certainly no.
And they were just like utilizing the pyramids.
Yeah, almost certainly no. It's really, like, it's difficult to think that the Egyptians actually did that. A note about all of the radioisotope
right, like I said,
dating.
There's no strong evidence of like, there's no like, big book that was found is like, oh, where they're talking about the pyramids and how they built them. Obviously, no plans have ever been found. But the only thing they have is like a log book of like when they were shipping stone. But it wasn't nearly as much stone as needed to build the pyramids. It was just, showing that they were capable of shipping some fairly large pieces of stone, but not impossible. But doesn't mean they built these things, right? Like, they could have just been adding to them or fixing them, or, obviously if these things existed and while they were around, they're going to be worshiping them in some fashion.
Yeah, I mean, humans definitely could move these stones, but these stones were being placed like once per second, allegedly for like 30 years. Like, it's gonna be really hard. Like, how do you make that case?
So there was proof, like, like they show like that the canal systems that existed, that they moved them, and, but that doesn't mean they built these pyramids.
Another thing about radioisotope dating is that they don't take into account, like, none of that takes into account the potential deposition of radioisotopes from solar events, which happen with reasonable like frequency, regularity. And or if our solar system has wandered into dust clouds previously, and magnetic flips, which we know happen. Again, like, there is magnetic field dust flip. That's well acknowledged by science, and they've even acknowledged lately that, hey, it could even happen within 100 years. It could probably happen sooner than that. I mean, not now, but like the magnetic flips can happen on the order of 100 years of just 1 century. So like we can get radioisotope deposition of all kinds and disturbances to that from solar activity and dust activity falling onto Earth. And the radioisotope dating that's used to do a lot of this stuff doesn't take those things into account. So that's another little piece of question.
This is interesting, but I do have a special guest. It is Donuts, Waffles, and More.
Oh, he jumped on. All right. I had DM'd him.
And he sells fried donuts, waffles, corn, and coffee for crypto and Monero. And he lives in Jordan. So I'm going to go ahead and run the guest segment.
Let's bring him up.
Thank you, Bawdy, for doing the price report and talking about the pyramids. This is very interesting.
Thanks so much, Bawdy. I will say, you know, like an idea I've been throwing around as a potential Monerotopia was, this is before this latest pyramid stuff even came out, was to do something in Egypt or near Egypt, August 2nd, 2027 they're going to have a full blackout solar eclipse for like 6 minutes.
That's cool.
That would be freaking amazing.
I would go.
That would be so amazing.
100%.
And maybe we could do some exploration over there. Bawdy, thank you so much, man. We love all your takes. Obviously, stick around if you can.
Thanks, bro.
And
I'll be here.
We'll get our special guest up here.
The Monerotopia guest segment is sponsored by CakeWallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. CakeWallet is open source, and you always control your own keys.
All right. Ibrahim. Is that how you say your name? Ibrahim?
Yes. Hi, all.
How's it going, man?
I am good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for jumping on. I saw your tweets that you've been putting out there regarding selling donuts and coffee for Monero. I'm gonna try to bring up. Hold on. I'm gonna try to bring up the video so people can see what we're talking about.
Okay, sir. I am Ibrahim from Gaza and live now in Jordan.
And how'd you get into Monero? Why are you selling donuts for Monero?
Yes.
What compelled you to do that?
My English, a little, okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. We leave Gaza.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, no problem. 20 years ago.
I love the background music, by the way. Okay. I love the music you have in your videos, by the way. But go ahead. We'll play the video once you're done speaking.
Okay. It's nice video. We buy my. Okay, sir.
You okay?
Okay.
Yes. Go ahead. Start again. Yeah. Just tell us why you started accepting Monero.
Yes. Before 2 years ago, we buy my house in the and my family, and go to Jordan because Gaza not safety now.
Mm-hmm.
And my money bought in Bitcoin in Binance, and blocked my wallet because not take cash money in Gaza, but now choice Monero because it's safety.
Yes.
And little fees.
Mm-hmm.
Little fees and 25 minutes. My money in my pocket.
Yes.
Yes, and Monero, it's a nice project.
Fantastic.
Mm,
How did you learn? How did you learn about Monero? So you said it sounds like you had Bitcoin. It was on exchange. It became an issue.
Bitcoin 24 hour to my money in my pocket or on my wallet. But Monero 25 or 15 minute, maximum 25 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, it should even be instant. Okay. And you're using CakeWallet?
Yes. And learn my customer and father customer, mother customer, how to what Monero CakeWallet. Learn him.
So you teach your customers how to use CakeWallet and Monero?
Yes.
Cool.
My job broken the last week because the weather it's not good. We have a donut, more donut. We gift the children in matrix.to and learn all personal, big personal, how transfer Monero and how what wallet cake and what Monero project. It's very nice project, maybe, and believe this.
And you mentioned earlier that you used Binance and they basically shut down your account, right?
I can't use Binance more time. It's still my my money. I have in this wallet maybe 0.46 blocked because my Palestinian man just.
Yep, I remember a while back seeing cases of people who were Palestinian that Binance was just shutting down their accounts sort of arbitrarily. So that's unfortunate that happened. But yeah, that's why we always preach about people using non-custodial. Like, since you've started using CakeWallet, I'm sure you've seen how much better that is than using like Binance to hold all your funds.
I just paused the screen for people that want to send Ibrahim a tip. You can. I just sent him a little some Monero. I just sent you a little Monero tip, man. You can put towards your business, towards growing your business. Just curious, how were you obtaining Monero? So what means were you using to go from Bitcoin into Monero?
Please, anyone in here Arabian can help me translate?
I don't think I know someone that speaks Arabic, but he's probably not online right now.
Okay. Maybe another day we could have him come up with somebody else. Do you know the Bitcoin battery? What's that guy? That other account, Bitcoin battery guy?
Yeah, like Lebanon. Let's see. It's like LB battery. Yeah, car battery LB.
Yeah. Do you know him?
Sorry?
Do you know car battery from Lebanon? I don't know. I assumed.
I can't understand.
Okay. All right. We can leave it here. If we get somebody who could translate one of these days, we could have you up with him. Guys, I have his QR code up there. You can scan it. I was able to do it as I'm watching the show here with my CakeWallet. Send a little tip. Ibrahim, anything else you wanna say? You wanna mention? I know it's hard for you to understand us.
I'm no understand. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's okay. No worries. We sent you some Monero, and maybe we could get you up here in the future with the translator. It would be fantastic.
After day, we have Eid. You understand what Eid in Islam's region? I will, me and my brother gift another children's donut and potatoes and corn.
They're giving it away to children.
Yeah. Yes.
Very nice.
We need all children's in the world. I wish good life and I wish happy, not happiness.
Beautiful.
Inshallah.
And so, yeah, if people send you Monero, I'm sure you could put those funds towards.
Yes, Monero.
Yes.
It's good project. It relax in my brain. Make relax.
Has anybody buying donuts off of you with Monero?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I have two customer buy Monero, and in future maybe this project big, maybe restaurant and كذا, and put Monero exchange in my restaurant in the future.
Oh wow! In your restaurant.
You understand me?
Yes.
And every week, any customer talking in Monero how used wallet CakeWallet and Monero and what CakeWallet.
Teaching people.
Yes, teaching people.
Privacy OG is saying it's Eid in a couple of days. It's similar to Christmas or Easter for Muslims. Yes, and he's I guess part of the tradition is giving things away to children, or I guess those that are in need. And so he's raising money and then using that to give things away, which is very nice. This guy's saying scam as fuck. Well, I mean, I don't know, man. He's out there. He's actually accepting. He put a lot of work. He's selling donuts for Monero. Whether or not he's getting a lot of customers, he's doing it. He's got his QR code up there. He's got CakeWallet. He's teaching people. This is how we start. Obviously, we never know who the scammers are, who's the But I sense legitimate things here. He's trying to grow Monero. It sounds like he had a real need for it. He had a bad experience with Bitcoin and the exchange that he was on. He understands the need for security and privacy. And so, let's not discount it. You don't have to send him $1 million, but I think tips will go a long way, and he could put it towards spreading that Monero out to people there where he lives. So, Thank you so much, Ibrahim.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And I wish biggest CakeWallet in the world, and I wish your Monero it's high the best in the coin.
Yeah, thank you, man, and I wish you well, and I hope you get a lot of sales with Monero and adoption starts to grow and people in your community start to use Monero. And I wish you all the best and good luck in all your endeavors. And I don't know how to say happy Eid or what the term, what people say there, but I hope you have a good holiday.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Have a nice day.
All right, we will be in touch, and hopefully maybe we see. Oh, one last. Are you on XMR Bazaar? Did you post on XMR Bazaar?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's good. So we have you on the map there as a Monero accepting business selling donuts. Thank you so much, man. We'll leave it here. We'll leave it at this, and maybe we get you on again in the future with the translator. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you doing this, and good luck.
Thank you. Good luck.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool they just jumped on like that too, right?
Yeah. This is a cool little donut shop going on there. And I saw he had the stuff. I had the QR code. He had some instructions.
Yeah.
Like for installing Cake and using Monero. It's pretty cool. It's like, yeah, it's probably not that many people using it, but it's still cool to see. And he said he had a couple people.
I'm surprised. Right? Like, I mean, who really knows what's happening, right? We're seeing these accounts pop up. Like we got that guy in Lebanon. I mean, it sounds like they're legitimately, using Monero. They've obtained Monero out of a need. They want something digital gold like that they can travel with, that they can, it's a bearer asset, and they can't be tracked or traced. So. And
I think what he was talking about at the beginning there, he mentioned his Binance account. It sounds like because he's a Palestinian, his Binance account was shut down, and he may have lost some money, because this is something that happened a while back where Binance just arbitrarily would suspend almost all Palestinians, or a lot of their Binance accounts just suspended, no matter how much money they had. So it sounds like that may have happened to him, and so this is kind of the evolution for him, is that he moved into non-custodial cryptocurrency. So he's using CakeWallet now to store his funds. So.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on how he got the Monero.
Yeah.
Curious how
I mean, it's very possible he just swapped. I mean, maybe he had some other service he could use, not Binance, maybe a different service that he used to either buy Monero directly or buy like Litecoin and swap it. I don't know, but
yes,
yeah, that's cool. And I mean, yeah, I think someone was saying it was like scammer or something. I mean, there's a lot of scammers that come in and beg for money, but I don't think this is one of those cases. I think he actually is really interested in the project, and it seems like he had some bad experiences with custodial solutions in the past, so he's trying to see what's better than that now. So,
and he's not overselling it. He's not saying, give me thousands of Monero so I can do this thing. He's out there. He's trying to accept it. If you want to send him some tips, I'm sure he'll put it towards good use, right? In terms of actually using it, holding it, and maybe buying some food and candy and things, or more supplies so he could go give donuts away to children. I mean, I don't know. It's good to see. Like, there's definitely a lot of scammers out there. We're seeing them. We see them pop up on XMR Bazaar. We're seeing them pop up on Twitter. We're seeing them pop up on Kuno. So you have to be careful, try to weed things out. That's why we bring people up here too, right? So he was willing to come up here. He's willing to talk about it. So yeah, that's really kind of the best we could do. And, we could fault on the side of maybe giving somebody some Monero that, I'd rather fault in that direction than fault in the direction of not having trust in any people, right? So I think for the most part, there's a lot of honest actors out here, which is nice to see.
Yeah. With that being said, I guess we can thank you for waiting extra long, Tony. I guess we can go ahead and move into the news segment.
Yeah, and I'm glad we had a guest.
Yeah,
that was great.
It happened.
Awesome.
The Monerotopia Weekly News segment is sponsored by WizardSwap.io, a non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange.
Tony.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Happy weekend,
What's up, Tony?
Hey, happy weekend. That was nice to have Ibrahim on the show. That was cool.
Very cool. I mean, he's out there. He's selling donut. Whether he's selling one donut a month for Monero, I mean, at least he's willing to do it, willing to accept. And it sounds like he knows like what it is, right? He understands what the value proposition is.
A little bit of a language barrier, but he seemed pretty enthusiastic about what he was doing.
I didn't get what he was saying. Like it takes me 20 minutes, and
I think he was talking about
hours.
Yeah, I think he was talking about the confirmation time, like with Bitcoin, in order to use his money again. Like especially during several times over the past couple of years, or several times, or if you're using really low fees, you're going to be waiting a day, maybe a couple days for that to be fully confirmed.
Oh, so
but
like
for Monero,
okay. Yeah.
fully confirmed after 15, 20 minutes. So I think that's what he's referencing to.
Right, with like no minimum fees. Like
Really,
set.
really low fees. Because like if you look at the fees in USD terms for Bitcoin, if you're paying like 50 cents, $1, for us it's not a lot. For someone who's doesn't have that much money, that might be a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. You can't sell donuts on chain for Bitcoin.
No,
if
you can't.
If you're living where he is, it's like there's no way. I mean, the fee is more than the donut.
You're gonna spend 28 cents on the donut and $5 in the fee to get the donut.
he's like this Bitcoin is retarded. Yeah, so people are naturally looking for better means. I mean, a lot of people are just using stable coins, right? That's the most used crypto for people like for transactions, but they're definitely waking up to Monero, so beautiful to see.
Yeah, and whether he's a scammer or not, still the story of him being there and Binance suspending his account just because of where he's from just adds to what we've been talking about is if you're going to use a centralized exchange to get your Monero, use it, but then get it out of there and put it in CakeWallet, put it in whatever you want, but just get it out of there because they can just target you for your name for whatever reason, and then your funds are lost. So
yeah, and he chose Monero. Like I wish we had a translator because I'm sure it's a better story too, and like how what his real understanding is. Because the fact is he moved from Bitcoin into Monero. So
yeah,
sounds like he really had a reason to do that.
And he's from Gaza. It's quite chilling just to hear that he's from Gaza and he had to move and
yeah, and that this became like what he used to travel, like to bring his wealth with him, right? I mean,
yeah,
it appears that's the case. I mean, that's tremendous if that is in fact like if Monero played a role in that, allowing him essentially to take his money with him safely. That is a primary use case of Monero. That's like how we make the world a better place type thing, like that. Right? Like that's. If Monero's functioning for those purposes, where dissidents, people leaving areas where the state is out of control, totalitarian, or just war zones, whatever it may be, and they're looking to Monero for being the tool that they're using for safely traveling with their wealth and taking it out of a country to go into another one, that's success. That means we're doing something right.
That's the ultimate test. If it's successful for them and they can use it, then that's the ultimate test. So yeah, but let's get into the news section. So Nigel said on YouTube, Monero is the people's currency. Yeah, it is. So on X, Ross posted, it's crazy. So he said, been trying to auction some personal belongings and eBay wants to verify my ID, and after weeks he still didn't get any response. He's just being put off. And then he posted, he's aware that eBay is aware of the situation, but they're choosing not to do anything. It's the first time he felt discriminated against since going free. And then he said, gee, maybe I should start my own e-commerce website. What should I call it? Well, we should call it XMR Bazaar. I really hope that he's going to see this message and look into it. Maybe
it got a ton of likes, so I think it was one of the highest like responses under him. So maybe I think he saw it. I think he saw it.
Should have for sure. But you don't need to build another one, Ross. You can just go on XMR Bazaar, and it's growing.
I mean, if he wants to join the team, join the project, become an advisor, more than happy to get him involved too. Obviously, he understands this business better than anybody, right? He literally built the first app use case for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. Other than like Satoshi Dice or whatever. I mean, built the first functioning cryptocurrency marketplace.
Yes, but yeah,
Now
XMR
here, and
is...
this one's a legal one, right? So he doesn't have, he doesn't have to worry about the potential negative effects. I mean, I'm hoping, this. I don't want to blow things up, too much, but we're hoping that maybe he comes to New Hampshire and he comes to PorcFest. Aaron is working on trying to get him to attend, and it wouldn't be that that far fetched for him to come and thank a lot of the people that were most passionately supporting him, because a lot of those people came out of PorcFest, Aaron and a bunch of others that were actively working to free Ross, raising funds and lobbying on his behalf and lobbying the Libertarian Party. A lot of those players are also PorcFest people. So there is a chance he attends Monerotopia PorcFest. He comes to PorcFest and we get him to come, I don't know, maybe come up on the stage in the Monerotopia tent, or at least talk to him. So would be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. But yeah, my XMR Bazaar is growing, and it's awesome. There's so many services, so many things you can buy, from just an elementary linear algebra textbook to plumbing services to you can buy cars, phones, all sorts of stuff. So it's crazy how fast it's growing.
People are posting things. They're making sales. I was DMing with somebody this morning, somebody that does like will buy anything for you for Monero. I was just curious, reaching out. I was like, are you making sales? He's like, yeah. So, it's sales are being made. Transactions are being made. People are using this to effectively live off Monero.
Yep.
And it's only going to get exponentially strong, more useful as more people use it. Network effect. It's not that big a leap to go from where we are right now with XMR Bazaar to you quite easily being able to rent your next Airbnb on XMR Bazaar, source your eggs and meat, like all these things that we're talking, it's not that big a leap to go from where we currently are to that point.
Definitely would help if Ross talked about it, which, who knows, maybe eventually he will.
And we need to be a little bit more ready too, right? Like, this is we've been running this as a lean startup, iterating it as we go, which is, I think, the only way to run something like this. Obviously, I wish we had a little bit more development power, but Anarchio is doing a fantastic job. We have Aaliyah, who's the main moderator. She's basically running the day-to-day on the site, communicating with users, giving feedback to Anarchio. Maybe it's the plan is to get more devs involved, but we want things a little bit more polished. She's working on adding the bonding system. That will be like our biggest feature add, and then notifications for Signal and SimpleX. So right now people are like posting their SimpleX on their profile page. Right, there's a messaging system in XMR Bazaar, and it's encrypted, using PGP, which is great, very cool. It's not going through our system; it's all PGP encryption that's happening outside of our system. We can't view any messages. But the thing is, when people receive messages on there, not everybody is checking their XMR Bazaar account daily, right? Like that's not in their mindset yet. Maybe once this thing grows and it's bigger and it's running as an app on your phone and you're seeing a notification pop up, you're clicking on it, you'll be like, oh, I got a DM from somebody that's looking to buy cheese off me, right? Like, but we're not at that point. So what we're looking to build in as a workaround is allowing people to connect their Signal or their SimpleX, and they would be getting notifications there, like, oh, you got a DM from so-and-so, or you got this, right? And so that builds the engagement, so there's no missed opportunities when buyers and sellers come across each other.
That's awesome. Since you mentioned Signal, I guess we should just skip to the Signal news. Essentially, there was a chat with JD Vance and a bunch of officials, and they accidentally just added a reporter inside the text chat, the chat. So
whoops.
Let's see. Yeah, whoops. So yeah, it's an insane national security story. The fact that they just randomly, or not randomly, but they just accidentally added the reporter to the group chat, and it was about a very sensitive subject. And yeah, we have a couple screenshots, such as this one, JD Vance talking about the operational bit, and other ones. But it's insane.
I mean, look at that message, right? Like, I just hate bailing Europe out again. Like I guess this is the message they were trying to get at. Like, oh look, like, you know, they were, if it was if they did like leak it themselves, right? You got to look at what the messages were, and basically
they're trying to make JD Vance look very cool to the right.
Right. Yeah.
It's very forced.
Right. Let's just make sure our messaging is tight here, and if there are things we can do up front to minimize risk to Saudi oil facilities, we should do it.
And then you have this. The guy just wrote the article for The Atlantic. The Trump administration accidentally texted me its war plans. Like, just, it accidentally happened. It's crazy. Yeah. So I don't know what to say.
I mean, the media is just like, they're all over, right? Because they see this as like a chance to attack the administration. Like, you know, they don't know what they're doing. Impeach them. They use Signal. I mean, the using Signal isn't the thing. It's that they added they added somebody to the conversation that's not supposed to be in the conversation. that was the major flaw. Sure, you could criticize, like, say Signal isn't super safe and they were using their phones and they could have, like, get into their devices. And the much bigger issue was that they added somebody in this chat room that wasn't supposed to be in it. Doesn't matter what they were using. They could have been at their, like, they just accidentally. So I guess that's the argument why you shouldn't be using Signal, because it should just be, like, devices apps where you obviously can't even accidentally add somebody outside of being an official that should be able to be added. Like, that's, but like the actual, whether it's encrypted well enough, it's more so the mistake they made of just adding a journalist to their chat,
which is just very bizarre. Like, they just randomly added The Atlantic reporter, and then, okay, let's chat about some Yemen strikes right now while we have him inside. Okay,
did we hear how they ended even up accident, like, who added him? Who was the person that? Oh, I think we know who.
Andrew.
Right?
I think his name is Andrew something.
And it was like he was trying to add somebody else, and he added the wrong name or something. Like, I don't even know what the story was.
I know a guy named Andrew, which was part of the whole chat. He added this guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, but I'm not sure if he was trying to add somebody else. And but still, why? I don't know. How can you do? I don't know. It's just so bizarre. Like, were they just right next to each other? He has The Atlantic guy in his agenda, and his phone agenda, and like, he should
added the wrong Andrew or added the wrong whatever.
Yeah. Jeffrey, yeah.
Jeffrey.
Well, actually, like, it's not even the same. Like, he's Jeffrey. I don't know.
Who knows?
So yeah, who knows?
Not worth speculating.
No, but it's insane the fact that it happened. Yeah, so it's not. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily, Signal. It's not secure. You can use Signal session, all kinds of stuff, but just the fact that they randomly added someone, it's crazy. Now we also have this post from, possibly, from the pyramids and all the other stuff. Yeah, just straight up incompetent. Yeah, it's
the most likely.
Double, triple check before you add somebody into. It's just the whole thing. Yeah. We added this guy. Okay, you got his screenshots. Okay, you got the article. Okay, you're good to go. Get him off. And how did nobody notice? That's another question. They added a guy and nobody noticed, and then they were discussing the war plans while the guy was inside. It's whatever. Lots of speculation. I guess we're not gonna know. But Jack Rhysider, I think that's how you say his name. He's the creator of Darknet Diaries. It's pretty cool. I think it's a podcast. I used to listen to it with all kinds of Darknet
he's got like
stories.
a ton of followers, and he does really good, really good job of editing these stories together. It's very well done.
Yeah, he's really cool. But he posted an article just about different technologies and talking about the communication, and essentially he wants to know if there is a properly secured phone plus messaging app, and he wants it. And there's a couple of people in the comment section. It's kind of technical, but somebody said the government are supposed to use secured Samsung devices with Knox, and then MDM, they pushed out a few select apps that have been pen tested, like OpenVPN and CellCrypt. These P25 ready communications with Motorola radios. The APX 6000, they're almost as vulnerable as us. Yeah, so I don't know what they use or not, but whether it's that Samsung device with all those stuff or Signal or Session,
I had him on Monero Talk, by the way.
Did you? Really?
3 years ago. Yeah, I gotta go back
and
rewatch that. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Because he's mentioned Monero, obviously, in some of his stories. It's come up, I think, with like ransomware, where he was talking about ransomware hacks and stuff.
Yeah.
So he's well aware, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, I don't know, right? Like, what is obviously, like, Tux could probably give us the best insight into what the safest, right? Use a graphene phone with like Simple X on it, right? Like, that's, as far as what we know, the safest way to communicate. And honestly, wouldn't that like naturally become the safest way for, even the feds to communicate among each other, like some open source tool where?
Well, I mean, just the fact that they're using Signal shows you that it's good. Signal's not necessarily the best, but it's like, I'd say it's good probably enough. Second place, and it's good enough. And like, yeah, Simple X is better, but you got to remember the kind of people that work in government. They're not techies, they're not tech savvy. They need something that just works, and so they're gonna have them use Signal, right?
We got to bring back the pagers. Just go back to a pager. Yeah. Bring back the pagers, sending us code. Sending each other code.
Yeah. But moving on. So we have Michael Saylor. He posted this image on X. It's him looking like a messiah in a desert.
Oh my God.
And he said, "Toe shall not sell thy Bitcoin."
It's Moses.
Rock. It's such a cult. Like, he's telling people to sell a kidney, max out the credit cards to buy the Bitcoin, and then he's saying, "I also don't sell because I need to pump my back still." Essentially,
he literally is a false prophet. He literally is like, "Look at me, guys." He's advertising it now.
God told me, "Thou shalt not sell thy Bitcoin."
What's interesting is that GameStop is now actually adding Bitcoin to their reserve asset. So, first the stock price went up, and then it went down a lot. I think it went to $29, then it went to 21 right now. So, and then
this is like a cry for help.
I wonder what's going to happen to their stock price. It's interesting why they've done it. Did Michael Saylor go to their door and try to evangelize Bitcoin? I don't know. But he did comment on the post. He said it's a step in the right direction. So it's official. GameStop is going to add Bitcoin to their reserve asset. I don't know how much. Probably in the millions of dollars. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, I wonder how that's going to affect the stock price in the future. I don't know. Now let's talk about CakeWallet. They have a very exciting update, v4.24.0, and now you have background sync. So background sync will attempt to sync all your wallets in the background at a specified interval, and there's documentation to include more information, but and this is currently only for Android. iOS has major restrictions for functionality like this, so it's just for Android for now, and it's also currently just for Monero. And they plan to add Litecoin, MWEB, Decred, Zeno, and even Bitcoin silent payments in the future. But for right now, it's just Android and Monero. But you get a background sync, which is cool. So now it's just syncing in the background instead of having to open the app and then wait for it to.
I will give some context to this. So we actually, a lot of people probably remember, we had background sync over a year ago. And then we removed it because the implementation was
draining batteries too much.
Right? Well, it wasn't that. It was actually because it was corrupting wallet files. And the implementation required having the private spend key in memory. So this implementation is way better. It's way more reliable. It'll not cause wallet corruption, and it's using the J. Berman method for utilizing just the private view key and not the spend key. So the private spend key doesn't sit in memory while it's background syncing, just the private view key. It's a lot more reliable. There won't be wallet corruption, and we're actually looking to bring this to iOS. It might not be as good. It might be as good. We're seeing if we can do that. But at the moment, it is Android only.
Okay, that's still really cool. Yeah. Now I want to talk about SethForPrivacy, and he has something on his website called the Fungibility Graveyard, which it's very cool. It's just a bunch of cases where the Bitcoin fungibility failed. And he posted recently a user swap via bolts is blocked and refunded after mixing funds in Wasabi wallet, including participating in a mixing round with funds from Bybit hack. And let's go to the Stacker news. So somebody got their address censored, and then bolts replied with, yes, we do censor transactions, and they said, we are not blocking Bitcoin originating from coin joins, but if you are participating in a coin join round with blacklisted Bybit hack addresses, then we do. If you intend to use bolts with coin join funds, it's a good idea to investigate about your coordinator a bit beforehand, which is just so much more extra work than just using Monero, because Monero is fungible, so you don't need to worry about all these things. Who used it in the past? Who's going to use it in the future? Like all this stuff, all these attachments. There are no attachments. It's just Monero. It's fungible, and that's how a currency should be. And if you go, I highly recommend you go to SethForPrivacy's website on the fungibility graveyard, and he has a bunch of these cases. He has just 34 cases like this of just people getting their assets frozen or denied withdrawals and all things of this nature. But there's a lot of cases like this. So yeah, Monero is not only privacy, but it's also fungibility that sets it apart from Bitcoin and all the other ones. Now, okay, let's see. Let's talk about, and then Thomas Messie tweeted, I've never used Signal. It can keep calm secure from some, but it won't keep secrets from sophisticated nation states. If it could do that, it'll be illegal. I figure it helps flag what governments want to monitor, and a first-class nation state is going to lock keys and watch screens. So that's what Thomas had to say about the Signal situation. Now, okay, let's talk about the SEC and their statement on proof of work mining activities.
I just want to comment on the the congressman's take. Like, to hear him say, that's a pretty interesting take. Like what he's saying there, right? Like, so obviously we never heard him talk about Monero. Thomas Messie, he's the most based congressman by far, right? So like this is the guy. If anybody's going to be like pro Monero, it's going to be this guy who's actually going to understand it and get it. But it's interesting, his take here is saying, like, if it actually worked as intended, it'd be illegal. So I mean, so what would he say?
This is kind of a retarded take, though, because it's literally someone literally took screenshots of the chat that they were inside.
Yes.
And shared them publicly. So
right. So like, it doesn't matter how secure it is. Like, if you're taking screenshots and sharing them publicly, it's no longer secure. But overall, it's just interesting to see insight into how he thinks about these technologies, right? So what does he then think about Monero? I guess maybe, all right, well, because they are trying to ban it in places around the world, then maybe he would see it as maybe this thing actually is working as intended. Or does he see it as a honeypot? Because he's basically saying, like tools like these are essentially honeypots because it just attracts people to use them that would use them for purposes, right? I figure it helps flag what governments want to monitor, right? and a first-class nation state is going to log keys and watch screens. Meaning, like, if they see that you're a Signal user, then you're on a list of people they want to monitor. So it's this is like an interesting nuance.
It's not that Signal's a honeypot, but it's like if you're someone that they really, really want to watch, they're going to root your phone. They're going to get a rat on your phone. They're going to get persistent malware on your phone like Pegasus, and then they're going to have access to literally everything.
Right, but he's saying, I figure it helps flag what governments want to monitor, right? So, like, if they see you're on Signal, it helps them know that there's somebody that they want to monitor, right? Because you're using Signal.
It's possible that the government has more insight into like the Signal servers than we might know, because Signal does host servers in the United States that forwards all traffic. But once again, you've got that component that's the device is locally encrypting messages.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying, I'm like concerned by his opinion here, and I think he needs to be spoken with. Like, he needs to come talk to the Monero community, and like, because it sounds like, you know, we need to make privacy normal, right? So we need to normalize the use of Signal, and the more people that use it, it will no longer be categorized that, all right, it's being used because you're looking to hide something, right? It's essentially what he's suggesting here.
I don't think there's any like super secret that Messie knows, if that's what you're implying. That
no, not that he knows, but his take on privacy tech is bad. He's saying like, guys, tools like Signal are essentially saying are honeypots. That's what he's saying here. He's saying it just helps flag the government of who should be getting monitored, and that's a horrible take.
Well, in that case, they've got like what, 10 million people. Like, there's a lot of people.
Right. That's why it's that's why it's a horrible take for that reason. And number two is that's where we should be doubling down, and he should be promoting the use of Signal, right? So it doesn't become categorized as.
I think it's just a misinformed take from someone who doesn't really understand technology.
Yeah.
It's a little more nuanced than what he's directly saying. I mean, he's generally right that a lot of things could be honeypots, and the government has insight into a lot more than what we think. Like, they could possibly be doing timing attacks to try and figure out who's talking to who without seeing the messages. That's a possibility, and they probably do that already, but I don't think Messie really understands.
And look, he's starting with I've never used Signal.
He's never used it.
No, but saying too, like I wouldn't use it because of this. I've never used it, and I won't use it because of this reasoning. Which is so. What is he using? Like what? He has access to some special communications that the government provide, like communication tools. I don't think so.
He's using iMessage instead. Which
like,
iMessage is okay. It's decent. But maybe he's using SimpleX. Maybe Thomas Messie is using SimpleX chat.
Or Session.
Session's worse.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So which one is the best out of
SimpleX?
Like say Signal.
SimpleX is the front runner right now. Yeah.
And Session is just worse. Okay.
It's lacking a lot of basic security features that SimpleX has, and even some that Signal has. The advantage of Session is that you don't have to. It's like it's more anonymous because it forces you to connect through this onion routing in order to use it. But you can use like Signal with Tor if you want to, and of course you can do the same thing with SimpleX. So in my opinion, it doesn't add that
Matrix element is very good. Right? I mean,
no, it's got very terrible metadata protection. The only advantage is if you're using end-to-end encrypted chats to actually hide the messages themselves. Otherwise, it's like SimpleX is by far the best in all categories, except for like convenience and usability. It's not as good as Signal, but everything else it's better. So
it's pretty good. It's pretty convenient, and it's he's doing an amazing job at it. Like I said, we're gonna add that as an option on XMR Bazaar. It's seemingly pretty easy for us to do and integrate with. So.
Okay. Tool. Maybe Massie's using the XMR Bazaar chat. Maybe that's how he's talking to people.
Oh yeah, sure.
I've never used Signal. I only use XMR Bazaar or PGP encrypted chat.
Thanks for the Darknet suggestion, bros. Yeah, it's a really good podcast. Yeah, a lot of just interesting real life stories that he has on there. But okay, so moving on, we talked about, so we're going to talk about the SEC and their statement on proof of work. They haven't been that clear on what they classify proof of work to be, whether it's a security or not, but they posted a statement on March 20th, 2025, and essentially they stated that proof of work is not a security. And more specifically, you can find it here in Division's view on protocol mining activities. And I'm going to read the whole thing, just the whole paragraph. They said, it is the Division's view that mining activities defined in this statement in connection with protocol mining under the circumstances described in the statement do not involve the offer and sale of securities within the meaning of Section of Securities Act of 1933. So the Securities Act and the Exchange Act. Accordingly, it is the Division's view that the participants in mining activities do not need to register transactions with the Commission under the Securities Act or fall within one of the Securities Act's exemptions from registration in connection with these mining activities. So proof of work is not a security because it failed the Howey test. Howey test is a test developed, I think, in 1946, and essentially for an asset to be classified as a security, it needs to have certain attributes. So one, it is an investment of money. Second, there is an expectation of profits from the investment. Third, the investment of money is in a common enterprise. And fourth, any profit comes from the efforts of a promoter or a third party. But yeah, so from this whole statement, basically proof of work is not a security. And it's nice to see some clarity, because for the past couple of years, we didn't have a clarity on what the SEC thinks of proof of work, but now they finally put it into a statement. Then we talked about Tornado Cash last week and how they removed some Tornado Cash transactions from the list, and North Korea and all kinds of stuff. But while Treasury removed this software from its sanctioned list, it is now actively trying to stop the issuing of a binding court order that would prevent the agency from sanctioning other software like Tornado Cash, or even release Tornado Cash itself. So this is not good news, and for privacy, and it seems like the Treasury is still hunting privacy software developers, and it's, I guess it's kind of conflicting, or I don't know what to really think about it. So they removed the transactions, but they're still going against softwares like Tornado Cash, and they're trying to not have it back. So I guess we'll see what they're gonna do in the future about this, but for right now, it doesn't look that good. And lastly, we have what's probably an AI generated rap for Monero. So let's listen to the first minute.
Step in the dark net, stealth like a shadow. Ring sick blazing, they can't trace the ammo. Mixing my UTXOs like a vandal. Nodes worldwide, got the torch and the candle. Decentralized, ain't bowing to no fiat. KYC? Nah, bro, we don't need that. No chain analysis, can't crack the math. Try to trace XMR, better do the bath. On Monero gang, ain't nothing to fork with. Our cipher inflows, keep your ledgers encrypted. Never dark nets, lovers privacy gifted. On Monero gang, ain't nothing to fork with. Bulletproof like tech in my wallet. Governments hate us, but still can't call it. Whales moving stacks through a shielded alley. We surf the storm while they stuck in the valley. No max supply, we keep it real, fungible. Bitcoin's loud, but Monero stays humble. Privacy first, we don't chase the fame. Respect the code or get wrecked in the game. On Monero gang, ain't nothing to fork with. Monero gang, ain't nothing to fork with. Flow private by default, we ghost when we work it. Monero gang, ain't nothing to fork with.
I like it. I think it's probably AI generated, but regardless of whether it is or it's not, I like it. Some people were hating on it on Reddit, but I like it. I think it's cool. But yeah, so this was the news section, guys. That was it for this week. Not sure.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate it as always. What happened to the view? There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, I may have had one more thing to bring up. Let me check my bookmarks real quick. Oh, did you bring up, you already brought up Lola Leet's tweet of Celsius's lawsuit against Chainalysis, right?
No, actually, no. I was looking at it, but I didn't.
Okay.
We can talk about it.
Yeah. I think I can. Let's see if I can pull this up on here. Okay. Yes, I can. All right. I will share my screen. It's kind of a long read, but I'm just going to go over the top part of it here. So, this is a tweet from Elites from a few days ago. Celsius's lawsuit against Chainalysis is absolutely wild. The debtors are suing the firm on a total of 16 counts for a fraudulent audit of the scam's assets under management, misleading customers and investors. Here's the gist of it. Celsius was a massive Ponzi scheme in which the founders manipulated the value of CEL tokens to dump their holdings on customers and investors. In 2020, Celsius conducted what is called a third-party audit of their total assets under management in partnership with Chainalysis, finding that Celsius had billions of dollars based on transactions, total withdrawals, and total deposits. Unfortunately, this first third-party verification of Celsius's network's assets was a complete and total lie, according to the complaint. Not only did Chainalysis not conduct the audit, the complaint states it was merely a scheme designed by Celsius founder Mashinsky that Chainalysis signed off on. So, yeah, there's been a lot of fraud regarding some assets being owned by the Celsius network. Or sorry, by Chainalysis, because Celsius is suing Chainalysis for propping up a fraudulent $3.3 billion audit of the platform that misled customers and investors.
Yeah, I looked into it a little bit. That's huge.
But why would Chainalysis lie about Celsius? According to the complaint, Chainalysis was growing its customer base, and the more assets Celsius had under management, the better Chainalysis would look in return, helping expand its business. Mind you, this is not the first time Chainalysis is facing criticisms for potentially nefarious motives and alleged miscalculations. In the criminal case against Roman Sterlingov, Chainalysis testified that it effectively had no evidence for the scientific reliability of its reactor product used to implicate Sterlingov as he operated Bitcoin Fog, the same software used by Celsius. At the same time, the defendants alleged that Chainalysis was effectively using the prosecution to market its for-profit business. To Chainalysis, the defendants seemed to argue it didn't matter who went to jail for operating Bitcoin Fog as long as someone did. So this just plays into how scum of the earth these people are, in that they'll lie to continue being funded and to continue being able to sell their software that's only used to falsely put people in jail.
Yeah.
And even with how traceable Bitcoin is, their software has not been shown to actually be reliable. So
all right. Yeah, so this was the news section, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Give us a like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.
All right. Thank you as always, Tony. With that being said, I think we'll go ahead and move into the Viewers on Stage segment.
It's the Viewers on Stage segment. It's that time where we invite you, the viewers, up on stage to comment on anything you've heard so far today, ask the guest a question, or maybe talk about one of the news topics. Come on down.
All right. Find everyone up here. We got Alaskan on, as always, ready to go early in the morning.
I mean, if in trucker hours, it's like, after lunch.
Trucker hours.
So I thought what Bawdy was saying about the pyramids, and it was kind of I'm sure it wasn't on purpose, but it was pretty much the same take as what I was saying the previous week about how just the depth of ignorance is never explored, and a lot of these people who kind of have their own concept of how things are, it's built almost entirely on preconceived biases.
Oh, looks like I was gonna have to mute. It's a quiet day. If anyone wants to jump up, feel free to. I've put the StreamYard link in the comments section.
I missed that. What?
I just said I put the StreamYard link in the comments section in case anyone else wants to join. It is a little bit of a quiet day.
You know, another really weird thing happened to me today, because so I have a lot of different phones, and I have a couple of phones that look identical and they're even in the same case or whatever. And I opened up this phone and I went to go sync the wallet. I was like, hey, that doesn't seem like as much Monero as I had in this wallet. It was like 4 something XMR. And I like kept looking like, what did I spend it on? And then I realized it was a phone from like a bajillion years ago. And I just forgotten that it was on that phone. And I was wondering to myself, like, how many people have, you know, just dozens of XMR just laying around on a bunch of different random phones and computers and stuff. And it's just like never crossed their mind that there's
That's
just
always a good day, finding some XMR that you forgot about. Oh, shoot. You know, it's like, you know, a few XMR. It's like, oh, hey, it's good to, and now it's worth more than it was when you left it.
Yeah, like I probably left it on there because I like got somebody a phone and I was like, you know, here's $25 worth of Monero, and I put it on there. And then like they ended up giving the phone back to make some kind of change or something. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have 4 XMR on this random phone, you know?
Yeah, I've had that. I'm usually pretty good at moving stuff over, but I did turn on my super old ass Pixel 3A a little while back, and it had a very, very old version of CakeWallet on it. And I was like, oh yeah, I have some crypto on here, some Monero, some Bitcoin. So that was nice to see. Not a lot, but
it's always the opposite for me. I'm always like, oh, here's an old device I haven't turned on in like 3 years. You know, and I rub my hands together and say, I'll find some crypto.
There's nothing on it.
Wait in anticipation as the sync happens, and I see my balance go up, and I'm like, yeah. And then eventually it turns out that I spent it and responsibly didn't leave any money on there.
Always remember to leave yourself a treat on your old phones.
Well, what's really funny about all of that is like when people talk about the hard cap on Bitcoin versus the tail emission on Monero, and it's like over time, all of these like 1s and 2s of Monero all over the place that are just on random devices and stuff, like the tail emission will hit that equilibrium. And so the thing is without tail emission, you're never going to have a stable supply, you know, because how many people, I would imagine, like if you were a drug dealer taking Monero like constantly and you're switching burner phones constantly and you're using a lot of different addresses, you're going to have a lot of like random little outputs lost in just different transactions and stuff. I remember, I mean, I'm sure it was somebody else, but like when you take a lot of cash and it's just like day after day, you're out away from your house and, you know, you're taking cash in this backpack and these pants and this wallet and all of this other stuff. And then you go home and you just try to like even consolidate all the cash from the different sources and like all of the different random times you paid for this or that with small sums of money, and you just don't even remember where all of it came from or where it all went. I can't imagine how many times I must have found just like a random couple $100 in whatever pair of pants. And that's kind of what Monero is becoming, is since it's digital cash, a lot of it, and it's always small amounts over time, but a lot of it is just getting washed out into wherever, and who knows how much it is.
I know you guys probably have never played with MetaMask, but you don't have to confess on stream or anything. But have you guys noticed in MetaMask that there's no if you try to max out your spend and you just want to empty a wallet, it's like, oh, you didn't leave a transaction fee. It's like, well, yeah, I assumed you're going to take care of it back in for me, and it doesn't do that. Maybe that's changed. Maybe that's changed lately, but I feel like the other day I was trying to send something from a MetaMask, again, confessions of Bawdy. I was trying to send something and I was like, wait, can't I just press a button that says, okay, send all of this except for, a transaction fee? I don't know. It was weird. It's like, it's not.
You would think that's really weird. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've used MetaMask. But of course, in CakeWallet, if Bawdy was using CakeWallet, the y'all leaves a fee. But that's okay. CakeWallet's not it's not the same kind of wallet that you're getting if you use Backpack or MetaMask. It's not quite as nice for the meme chains like Solana or even like EVM chains like Ethereum. So,
I mean, obviously, there's tons of
on a browser. Maybe you're on a secure computer and you install your MetaMask. Probably you installed it over Tor on your Unix machine or whatever, so you can fathom that you have some security. Maybe, probably not.
Well, the thing is obviously there's edge cases, pun intended, for what's to follow, where if you're taking it on a large business scale, Edge Wallet has certain QuickBooks utilities or whatever that maybe you want. But there's a reason why I pretty much only recommend Cake or Monero.com wallet to the people that I'm talking to. And it's because tech bros are so bad at putting those make it simple features so you don't have to know everything about what you're using. And they've always been bad at that. And what's cool about Monero is you really don't even have to tell them about transaction fees. It's just oh, there will be a little fee and you won't even notice it because it's super small. And then they just forget about it because it just works as intended and nobody gives a shit about 0.001 XMR on every transaction. But then all of a sudden they want to move it to another wallet and it's okay, I have this much, and they put it in and they send it, and it's just how is that not just the most no-brainer feature to have on any wallet ever, where it's just liquidate all to a new wallet? It should be so obvious, but tech bros, that's not something that they usually think about because they just assume everybody knows how the blockchain works, everybody knows how transaction fees work, and so on.
When Cake browser add-on, Tux?
We've had a few people ask. It's a worthy ask because, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of browser wallets. I think you're adding a lot more surface for exploitation, but it is a very popular thing to use with the EVM chains and Solana. So we've briefly thought about it, maybe in the future, but if we do, it would be a much more long-term thing.
They usually don't get pwned. Usually your browser wallet doesn't get pwned. So you can play around and do some stuff, and you just don't keep your life savings on it. Or you're doing something you have your virtual machine and it's only dedicated towards crypto, or one little thing in crypto, and then you install your browser wallet and you never browse anything else other than using that add-on. That could be that's probably reasonably secure.
I believe recently I did see. What was it? I'd have to find it. I did think I saw some Phantom Wallet exploit in the browser version. I'd have to look for it though.
Did people get funds? Did they lose their funds?
Am I imagining this, or wasn't it when the Brave guy was on, and they were talking about a Brave Wallet XMR thing?
Yeah, they've got their inbuilt their Brave, their inbuilt Brave wallet, and they were trying to add. They were considering adding Monero, and I think the outcry reached them enough that this privacy project that hasn't included Monero is like, oh, maybe we should include Monero. Okay, guys.
You would think that, like, wouldn't it be a no-brainer for Brave to just work with somebody who develops wallet like Cake instead of putting all of their development effort into integrating it themselves?
Yeah, possibly, but the code bases are incredibly different between CakeWallet and then a browser wallet like Brave Wallet. And also, if Brave did add Monero, I feel like they're probably going to use a light wallet, not a full wallet, for the speed. Now, that might implement a Monero full wallet. They could do that. But obviously, there's a drawback there because people who use browser wallets are used to everything being instant. You don't have to wait for something to sync. So
Gabriel on Watchman Privacy, he did this like Firefox thing. Did anybody watch that? It's a good show. It's like oddly like dramatic. It's like he's usually trying to kind of just be fact-based and impartial, but you can almost hear him like crying in the background that Firefox is falling apart. But which, fair enough, I kind of feel the same way.
It's a tragedy.
Yeah, it's like one of the deepest cuts that you can feel, But the thing is I have for a very, very long time wished that there was a browser that I could just pay for that had security and it wasn't all about like, and wouldn't it be nice if somebody just came along with deep pockets and just brought what is it, Gecko? Yeah. Just like bought Mozilla's browser wing and just started making it a paid service. And it's like no advertisers, no data collection, no sponsors, no nothing. You just pay for a subscription to your wallet, and you can even buy it as like a gift card or buy it at Monero or whatever. And you do not have to give us any data. It's just as soon as this random whatever is paid for, then it just works, right? Like, and just have a paid service where you're not worried about funding this and that and whatever. And then you can just develop something that's actually truly independent. And maybe the browser, that's like too big of an ask, but there's so many places where it does not bother me at all to pay for my own email. And like, because I know, I've got the company self-hosted ones and then Tutanota and Proton and like just having a bunch of different ones and getting different emails to all of them. Like the idea of paying for a service that at least in theory gives you a higher quality service. And I would totally pay for something like CakeWallet. I would totally pay for a browser. I would pay for all of that stuff. If they could just give me the guarantee that they don't collect data, they don't let other people collect data, and it's built from the ground up to be private.
Yeah, I agree. Fang brought up a true comment. Mozilla has always been a very bad company for a very long time, and nothing changed with the new terms of service. It was always a shitty. Yeah, unfortunately, Mozilla has been... they've been kind of this weird sort of money funneling company that they get a lot of money and it kind of goes like nowhere even related to the development of Firefox. And it seems like it's kind of been the case ever since Brandon Ike, the original founder or co-founder of Mozilla. Mozilla Foundation versus Mozilla Corporation. Ever since Brandon Ike was forced to leave Mozilla, it's kind of just gone way downhill since, and ironically he went on to create Brave Browser Company and Brave Browser, which I don't know the statistics. I feel like Brave Browser might actually have more users than Firefox overall, or maybe it's becoming more similar. I haven't looked, so I could be way off on that, but I really do like Brave Browser. I think it's the best browser option today for most people. If you need something that's got more specific fingerprinting resistant, that's maybe more set up out of the box, or maybe doesn't have, because I think Brave has maybe one piece of telemetry that's on by default. It's not one of those browsers that's not going to have any connections. It's going to do a check for updates. It's going to do like a ping to show that there's a user existing. But I think for most people, Brave Browser out of the box, like by default, is just is great. It has decent ad blocking built in and fingerprinting protection built in. So for most people, I think it's fine. But if you're more of an advanced user and you want something better, you can either harden Firefox installation, or you can even like change, just like me personally, when I install Brave, I go in and I change a bunch of settings to my own liking. So yeah, but I get what you mean. It'd be nice if you could just pay for like everything, and instead of the company selling your data, it's just they don't, right? But you pay for it instead. And I think there's some things you can do that for and replace with, but yeah, there's no browser you can pay for that's just like the super secure and private browser. I think Brave would be the closest to that, in my opinion.
Better to be a customer than a product, that's for sure. And let's not forget, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to still use browser isolation and virtual machines and all of this other stuff to just like further confuse the situation. But the amount of work it takes to get that little bit of extra privacy, it's just like there has to be another way. You know, there has to be a better system.
Have you guys heard about LibreWolf has? So I don't know. I'm sure you guys know Lunduke, Brian Lunduke, and he did a lot of the expose on Mozilla like over the years, and how they have like the weird funding. Yeah, so they're doing all. It's like they're upset with him for something about I don't know, like what is it? It's the non-inclusivity of rainbow stuff or something, and they're like he
doesn't like homos.
I don't even know if it's that. It's like he's just not anti-bigotry sufficiently to their level or something. You know, it's like the same bullshit. Like it's not enough to be passively anti-racist or passively against racism. You have to be actively anti-race. You know, like it's something like that. Like they were. Have you guys seen that? What do you guys make of that? Like I'm using LibreWolf still, and now I'm like, oh god damn it.
I don't know. I don't know that much about the people who maintain LibreWolf. I couldn't say.
This has been a big problem with a lot of people, especially if you've been in the Linux community for a long time. There is like it's amazing because the weird part about it all is they think we care. So what I mean by that is you'll see somebody and then they're like some up and coming coding rock star or whatever. And then they'll announce like, surprise, I'm a tranny. And we're all like, all right, cool, bro. And then they'll be like, no one cared about my transition. And it's like, isn't that the goal, right? That nobody cares. It's no.
Like, I still use LibreWolf to be homophobic on the internet, and the devs can't do anything but say.
And that's kind of the whole point. Is like it's never enough where it's just like we don't care or we ignore it. It's just like this person hasn't actively come out against transphobia, or this person hasn't actively supported like gun restrictions or whatever. And it's just like, this is why we hate you. I hope you know that. It has nothing to do with any of the things that you think you're persecuted for. It's because you are cramming your politics down our throats. And even if it was something I liked, the fact that you're force feeding me would make me turn against you. You know?
Yeah, that's what I mean about LibreWolf is they've got the wokeism thing going on. I'm like, oh man, I automatically suspect you have an agenda if you're going to be all wokist. It's like, just leave that out of it. I don't care. Like, if you want to be a tranny or gay or a Nazi or I don't give a fuck. Do you write good code? Like, do you write secure code? Like your personal proclivities are your own. Like, let's, if you need to be secretly a Nazi or secretly woke or whatever, like, and keep your stuff just like, who cares, right? And so when you see an organization like LibreWolf getting all woke and then banning Brian Lunduke, who's a rock star legend as far as I'm concerned, and they're banning him, it's like, okay, so now I guess should I trust LibreWolf now? Like, it makes me think probably no. I don't know.
Well, the thing is like Richard Stallman, for example, is like super pro taxes. I mean, Doug was actually I didn't even know this until Doug had.
Yeah, Doug has an interview with Richard Stallman, which is that's like legendary. Okay, that's legendary.
but it's not going to change the fact that, like, in my mind, I mean, the world is like not even significantly a better place. Like, it's a livable place because of this man, you know. Or the PGP guy, he was like, but my terrorism or whatever, and it's like, you got to be kidding me, right? Like the PGP guy, or Zimmerman.
Oh,
or,
Phil Zimmerman. Yep.
Yeah,
I
Phil
met him a couple
Zimmerman.
times.
And I'm just like, dude, you're famous for being a terrorist. You know, it's like,
bro, even
like,
Satoshi has a thin blue line on his
man.
profile. Like, even Satoshi has a thin blue line on his profile, and I'm like, man,
Which
that's disappointing.
Satoshi are we talking about?
The only Satoshi with a thin blue line on his profile. What is it? IFKYK.
If you know,
and,
you know.
You know, that was one of the reasons why I apologized while Blaine was on the other week, where I was just like, okay, I overstepped. It's because, like, European culture is the way it is, you know. And I mean, these are like the people on the bleeding edge of freedom tech over in Europe. And Doug is just like, you're going to let some government tell you what you can and can't say? And I'm like, yeah, get him, Doug. And then I stopped for a minute. I was like, wait, they're like the only freedom conference in Europe at this point. Like, maybe we should walk this back a little bit, like, because we have to remember, like, it's, you know, I mean, especially like the three guys on this stream right now, we're like so far into the, like, don't tread on me, where it's like, if you're wearing boots on my property, it like mirrors the idea that you could tread on me. So, you know, here come the rounds down range, you know. But the thing is like, a lot of these people who are fighting for freedom in our minds, and maybe we're the ones who are wrong, I don't know, but it's like, they're not there yet, sort of thing. And when people keep asking me to go to Pork Fest, and I understand that, like, the libertarians are, you know, the people that are the most likely Monero adopters, and they're like the kind of a more mainstream political affiliation that, like, almost identifies with us or whatever. But to me, it's like they might as well be communists, you know. It's like, wait, you're okay with some government? You and I are not the same, you know. But then I remember, it's like, these people have gotten so far outside of, like, normie land as far as understanding that the government is just, like, fundamentally evil. And, you know, but it's, you know, that Happy Gilmore meme of, like, come on, get in your hole, where it's like libertarians are like right on the edge of anarchy, but they just can't quite make it all the way. And but I think sometimes we get too frustrated about, like, you know, Libra Wolf is going all like rainbow people or whatever. And there's another conference that Richard Stallman was at, where he just went on this 20-minute rant about how, like, if you're not pro-abortion, you believe in killing women. Did anybody ever see that? And it was like, this dude is like way deep into the, like, no, every woman should have the right to kill a baby at 9 months, and if you're not like that, then you can leave. And I'm just like, Jesus, go write software, man. Like,
I mean, that's a good lesson, and why it's, if you're the front face of a develop, like, you have to understand the context of who you are in a community and understand the way you need to conduct yourself. Like, if I was writing Monero code, I would not be saying half the shit I say. I would be trying to maintain a much more neutral stance. Like, you'd get some, you know, there would be signs, right? You would kind of have an idea of my proclivities, but I'd be a lot more careful about it, because, like, I don't want the Monero project to be wrapped up in, like, a particular ideology from a developer standpoint. It's like, hey, I'm a dude with this ideology that finds Monero useful, but there are other dudes that have, like, very different ideologies that still find Monero useful. And, like, I value the fact that we can at least share that common ground. And I think that's, like, critically important, you know, because otherwise you do end up in these kind of problems. And most developers and most leaders of projects understand this. They understand that, yeah, some level of neutrality needs to be maintained. It's a similar thing that you see corporate CEOs maintaining some level of neutrality and you know, trying to maintain some level of balance in the whole, like, political thing. It's the same thing with software development. So, you know, but I'm just a price dude, like, trying to organize organize some thoughts on, like, okay, what do I think the market's going to do? So I can kind of share those proclivities a little bit more without too many problems.
Bawdy just wants to be left alone and watch the price. That's all he ever asked for.
I don't want to just watch the price. I want to make the price, bro. I'm working my way up. soon enough, these price reports won't be predictive in the sense that I've identified the trends. They'll be predictive.
It will be prophecy.
That I own the market.
This is where I will put them in 3 hours. You better step.
Right.
This is a good one to bring up from fairly reasonable investor. Bawdy, this reminds me of the Linux kernel project banning people with Russian email accounts. I remember that.
Pepperidge Farm remembers that.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
There was
a while back where I was doing like these. I was really involved in like land use stuff and like fighting governments for land use stuff. And I mean, maybe there would be a time for like a show about it because it's actually like super relevant to Monero. But for another time. But the point is like a bunch of people, especially like in libertarian circles, have you thought about like come be party chair and come be, and like the people need to, blah, blah, blah. And I was just thinking to myself, it's like, you have only heard me talk about land use. Like the minute that the rest of what I say is heard by anyone, it is going to drag you down into the seventh circle of hell for like the stuff that you are not allowed to say. And I often think about the fact that like even with business negotiations where it's like I try to slip in and slip out and like not get into the weeds or whatever, and then at the end of like a business deal when people start talking about like politics or whatever and they're just like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. If we all just vote harder, maybe we can turn it around. It's all I can do to just bite my tongue for the next 20 minutes and smile and nod and be like, right on, bro. It's like, and little do they know, like my handle is like super anti-democracy, like in a public facing square. And it's like, I'm anti-democracy and all those other things. And then just, okay, yeah, you go vote harder. I hope that works out for you, man.
There are a few super chats I want to get caught up on to make sure I don't miss these. Pseudo once again trying to get his 5 through. He has done interviews on Bitcoin channels, so I think it is feasible. I would donate or start a queue to make this happen if necessary. Really think this would be beneficial. And then he said, info@eurodollar.university. Is there any point in me reaching out on Doug's behalf? Seems weird and futile, but sure I can try. I would say hit up Doug first and see if he's interested. I don't even know who that guy is. I've never heard of them. He might be interesting. But yeah, you should see if you can get a hold of me or Doug directly, and then we can see if he would be interesting to have on Monerotopia, or if you're trying to get Doug on his show. Next we have Satre.
Do you mind if I say something about the pseudo thing real quick? Which is pseudo, like, you have to realize it is nearly impossible for people to like chase down all of these avenues unless there's people that just kind of grease the skids for them. Don't hesitate. Like, if you think something is a good idea, man, like really for sure reach out. And it's not like these people are these untouchable celebrities that'll never listen to you or whatever. It's he may not be aware of Monero talk or whatever. Like, please, if you think somebody is a good idea for a guest, whether or not it works out, somebody has to start the ball rolling. So it's not futile, man. Like this is how we build a community. This is how we get the word out. And you're every bit a part of the Monero community as anybody else. We don't have like a head honcho or whatever. It's just a bunch of people smashing their face against a brick wall until we get these things to happen. So if you think it's a good idea for a guest and you do the legwork, you can possibly be the one who makes it possible. People hit up all kinds of random people in the community all the time to try to get to where they want to be. So if you think it's a good idea, man, run with it for real.
I'm looking at his channel here. It looks like he's got 165,000 subscribers on YouTube. And it looks like he's putting out a video every day, sometimes every 12 hours, maybe every couple days. So yeah, he's pretty active. Definitely looks, he's got some entertaining, like he has JPOW on this one clip with a bunch of fire behind him, and it says "We are fucked" with a hashtag on the U there. But yeah, so some of this looks potentially entertaining. But I mean, bro, definitely like hit up Eurodollar University and be like, yo, bro, you should talk to Monero. It's that would help grease the skids, as Alaska was saying.
There you go. Yeah, just go ahead, make it happen. Saturate tip 25 cents. If yes, for what does Sir Tuman still use Windows? Sorry, this was a while ago. I don't know exactly what this comment was in relation to, but Doug uses Windows probably because it is easy and it works, and he doesn't have to fight his computer. Not that Linux is impossible to use. I'm guessing that's what the answer would be instead of Windows, but someone like Doug doesn't have time to waste, nor does he have really the ability to waste trying to fight something he doesn't know how to use. And for someone like him, it makes sense to... There's more good he can do by just using things he already knows. Plus, not everyone can be super cyberpunk. Right? Yes.
Like
I've never claimed to be a hardcore techie, when it comes to the cypherpunk side of myself. I've always made that very clear.
Not everyone can be that person.
That's an important role, guys. I mean, if Doug Tuman can use Monero, anybody can. So think of it that way. And the products and services and things I'm building are an attempt to be a bridge.
If Doug can use CakeWallet, anyone can.
A bridge between the cypherpunks and the normies, right? We need to give access to the normies as well. Actually, and this computer was built by somebody in the Monero community. It functions as my Monero miner.
I think I know who built that computer.
I took all the whatever he put on there. Obviously, he would have made it Linux based if I needed, but he knows that this would be more usable for me. So,
how dare you not use Linux? You're not a true cypherpunk.
Sorry, guys. I'm not there yet.
Russell, hold on. Let me get through these Russell super chats real quick. Russell tipped 50 cents. How did Doug's guest appearance on Sal's show go? I want to watch it live. I missed it. I got to catch the recap still. How did it go, Doug?
Oh, it was fantastic. It's fantastic. Yeah, you guys can watch it. It was pretty short. I think it was on there for like 45 minutes or something.
Can we get a link to that?
If you just do Sal the Algorist on X, you'll find it.
It should be easy to find.
He does a show every Wednesday night, and he's a big was historically a big Bitcoin Cash guy, and now he's kind of doubling down on Monero and Xano, actually. So I don't know. There might be some controversy there, but he also likes Xano. I was trying to talk.
There's a lot of money in shilling Xano, allegedly.
Yeah, apparently. Sal's a good guy, though. I mean, he's a true agorist.
All right, one
cool
more,
dude.
guys. The maker tipped 50 cents. Monero is king, no matter how much Z-Trash shills seethe over it.
Oh, and big news with Sal was that he hooked up his XMRchat before the show, and he was getting Monero-based super chats, and now we'll be using it moving forward.
I did see that.
Definitely try to tune into some of his shows in the future, Wednesday nights, and send him some Monero tips to keep him going and using it.
Yeah, that's a good mental note.
Let's see how much he got. Let's take a look. Sal.
What? You can see how much he got?
XMRchat.com/Sal. Yes, unless the tip privately feature has been changed so that tips don't show up publicly. Let's see, not a ton. He got like $25-$30 for the first stream. It looks like using XMRchat.
Yeah.
Hey, bad. But that's $25 on one stream. Hypothetically, you get that, a few times a month. That could be a little. Maybe a fancy night out on the town.
It adds up. There was definitely a surprising amount of XMR super chats when Luke Radowski did his first stream, which was also conveniently his last stream. I think he's done still so far, the one with Doug.
I know. I can't believe it was like his last
Doug
stream.
managed to get his last stream. That's.
Hopefully he comes back.
Oh, wait, he got kicked off of YouTube?
No,
wait,
he
what?
quit.
He quit?
Yeah, for a little while.
Huh.
He's getting some pressure, various things. Well, I mean, I think it's public. He spoke about it on the show.
He did,
yeah. He's taking a break.
Well, I'm pretty sure that we can say that it was Monero's fault and specifically Doug's fault.
Actually, it's an opportunity because he was looking for another reliable sponsor, So I had proposed the idea of, doing a Kuno, teaming up, and he would like be willing to be sponsored by Monero at this point, essentially. He lost one of his sponsors. I think he had like a deal with Rumble, I believe it was. And so he was taking a hit financially with that regard, and like the juice wasn't worth the squeeze in terms of the amount of effort he was putting into the streams. So he was like, if I could figure out another sponsor. So I actually saw it as an opportunity. And he was willing to do something. I never followed up. So if it is something,
he has a nice studio. I was impressed with his studio.
Yeah, he's got a cool studio. He's got a big following.
Cool.
I think, and he's got a lot of like other, people that participate in his show and the community that he's in. Like the word gets out from him, right? Like if he were to do a Kuno and like take on Monero as being like a sponsor, or the Monero community being a show sponsor, essentially, I think it would definitely be good for adoption.
I'm proud to say I onboarded Luke Randowski to CakeWallet.
That's awesome.
It looks like he got around 140 US of XMRchat super chats on the first stream that he did. That's a lot. 140 US.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Some of that's probably hype. People showing their approval of XMRchat, but that's still pretty good. Pretty cool to see.
Yeah, back to the Windows thing. I just wanted to tell a little story, a short story. A buddy of mine recently, he has a nice laptop, and he bought like maybe 9 months ago. And I helped him install Linux Mint on it. In hindsight, I'd probably just go with Ubuntu, because I didn't realize that Linux Mint is now a spinoff of Ubuntu instead of its own like proper thing. So it like introduces these weird, like I had to do a weird hack, like just so I know Linux enough to, go be dangerous in a command line and kind of patch things together. But as I'm helping him do this, he's not a normie by any means, but in terms of like his electronic capacity, right? His ability to run terminals and stuff, like, yeah, he's a normie, he's basically working with Windows. And as I'm helping him set this up, and he was around for like a couple weeks, and it's like he's like, hey, what about this problem? I'm having this problem. So he'd bring his laptop over, and I'd be like, oh shit, okay, let's do this. And like, okay, well, we had to like find a library for a screenshot tool that wasn't a crappy screenshot tool. And I was like, there's no way he would have known how to search, do an app search for libraries and install one after the other until we finally found, on the fifth one that actually worked. And a whole bunch of just other like nonsense, like I don't know if it was Brave browser. I don't think it was Brave. It was, I think it was Molvod. Yeah. I think we downloaded Molvod, and then I had to go in there into app sources and then change, instead of whatever the Linux Mint version was, I had to change it to Jammy or whatever the latest Debian one. Like I had to like change that inside of the file. And it's like, there is no chance he would have found that on his own, unless maybe AI would have helped him figure it out. But I'm not even sure that Claude or ChatGPT was smart enough to be like, go into appsources.list.d and then pull up the repo and then change the Linux Mint version into the canonical version, or the
Sounds
Ubuntu
like a weird
version.
setup, though, to be honest. And I do agree with Nigel Dapper Dangle's comment here. I do think Fedora Workstation is probably the best Linux distro for beginners, because it's got very great compatibility across a wide range of types of system configurations, and you get the advantage of having newer packages but still being behind a quality filter, because it is kind of like a rolling release, but not in the same sense that Arch is. There is a company that actually does like stability checking for new versions, and it is put behind some amount of time. But also, Fedora Workstation is really easy, and it's very much a beginner distro, and it has kind of everything you need out of the box in terms of drivers and stuff for the most part. There might be some things you have to install separately, but it really promotes the usage of installing Flatpaks, which I think, like, I know if you're a hardcore Linux person, you're like, oh, Flatpak is bloat. We need to have everything be only through the system package manager. But Flatpaks are just like really easy to install, and Flatpaks have everything self-contained, so it has all the dependencies it needs self-contained within its own Flatpak. So being able to install apps from like an app store, I think is which is what Fedora provides. I think is just super simple and easy for most people.
Do you still have to enable RPM Fusion free and non-free and contrib? Like, do you still have to enable all the RPM Fusion stuff, or is Flatpak like automatically handle that?
Well, depends on what you're trying to do. Like, if you need NVIDIA drivers, yeah, you might have to enable the non-free.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you have to enable RPM Fusion non-free. I have never found Fedora to be useful for my personal basic use cases without using RPM Fusion. Like, I would never recommend a newbie go to Fedora without RPM Fusion or something of that caliber or of that nature.
Let's just assume RPM Fusion non-free, and then at that point, I think Fedora is pretty good. Because I know by default, because of licensing, they don't provide they don't provide certain packages. It's non-free, but I think once that's enabled, I think everything else is easy. Assuming
the
you
other
need
thing
that.
I would
I don't
say
remember if
that
I even needed anything from it. But
I would say that Ubuntu has a wider range of like just general packages software available. Like a lot of stuff, like a lot of the AI stuff is supported on Ubuntu and or Debian that you won't see on Fedora. Maybe a lot of that's changed. Maybe they've updated that. But in almost all cases, I will see something. It's available for Windows. It's available for Mac, and it's available on Ubuntu and or maybe Debian by extension, but not always.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ubuntu's still a decent choice, but I don't like a lot of the direction that Canonical has gone with trying to force people to use Snap, which is worse than Flatpak. Snap seems to cause a lot more problems than Flatpak in terms of performance and other various issues with the app itself. And the only distro that uses Snap is Ubuntu, and so there's going to be less software that actually decides to release to Snap. Now, in terms of like things just working for like, let's say you've got like a deb package, yeah, those are going to be more commonly available for Ubuntu. Like people are going to more commonly build directly to just for like Debian/Ubuntu, so in that sense you have more compatibility. I just don't like some of the stuff they did specifically with Ubuntu. And also, I don't really like the fact that it's Debian because I think it depends on what kind of system you want. But especially if you're someone that wants to do gaming stuff, you're going to be way better off using something like Fedora, so you can get newer drivers, newer versions of Proton, stuff like that.
Is Steam more like readily updated on Fedora than on Debian?
I don't know, but like also, it depends on whether you're using the system package or a containerized one. So this is where using Snap or Flatpak kind of makes the system package manager release schedule less relevant. But generally, I just prefer to have things more up to date, at least for me, because I've like gaming on my Linux systems, and I also prefer having newer versions of the desktop environment, and that's what Fedora will do, because Fedora has a release, like an actual official OS release about every 6 months, in which you do get a new version of the desktop environment, which is like pretty much put in line with the development schedule of GNOME. So you basically get the newest version of GNOME as it comes out, with like a couple weeks of stability testing. So it's not like Arch, of course.
Yeah, GNOME has come a long way in terms of like how seamlessly it operates. It used to be the case that I had to sort of hop back and forth between GNOME and GTK. GNOME and Qt, to like KDE. I mean, I know it's GTK Qt and GNOME KDE. It used to be the case that you had to hop back and forth a lot more between the two. Like if you were getting packages that like just weren't presenting right, or the GUI didn't look quite right. That seems to be less the case now. I will still say though that like Linux Mint, I didn't realize this until we installed it on his computer, and in hindsight I would have just given him Ubuntu. But Linux Mint is a derivation of Ubuntu now. It's not its own separate like developmental path based on Debian or Unity or whatever. Like it's like a spin-off of Ubuntu. So like Ubuntu is already a spin-off of Debian, and now it's like a copy of a copy. But anyways, we had to do some pretty like nuanced little things to get him set up in a way that made sense for him. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, yep.
We've come a long way, but we have a long way to go, you know?
Oh yeah, Linux is still, it's a far cry from being like I mean, to be fair, even Windows, like, geez, Windows is I really hate Windows. Windows has plenty of issues on its own. But yeah, I think
when you know what you're doing, Windows is horrible. You're just like, oh my God. But if you don't know what you're doing, then Windows kind of covers a couple things for you that otherwise you wouldn't know how to do.
Yeah, and I think GNOME is kind of the gold standard desktop environment on Linux now. Like KDE has gotten a lot better than it used to be. I've used it for years. It used to be really bad. It's a lot better, but it's still not nearly as stable as GNOME, at least in my opinion. Like I tried using KDE again for I think like 6 months, and it was an okay experience, but there was just tons of times where my entire desktop would freeze, or half of the programs on the desktop would crash because of the desktop environment restart, or there was an error or whatever.
Really?
And I just never had the same problems to that degree on GNOME. And I think part of that's due to just how they're designed. Like KDE is designed to give you as much control over like you can customize everything up the wazoo, but because of that, there's more like technical debt probably in the desktop environment itself. There's more burden of maintaining it, and there's more potential for bugs and problems. Whereas GNOME is they kind of force you to use it in a certain way, but because of that, they're able to really polish it and make it really good and stable. And I mean, GNOME, you can also install a lot of amazing extensions to extend how it works. But I think GNOME overall is just a much smoother and stable experience than KDE.
And I know the Ricers are going to hate. I know the Ricers are going to hate me for saying it, but you don't need to rice your stupid desktop. Like it all does the same thing. It doesn't matter if you have round corners or square corners or what your banners look like, your title font. Like that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's just playing with your tool. That's what it is.
It's fun for a while, and then at some point, like this was literally me. I used to waste so much time like customizing the crap out of my desktop, making it look super cool. And at some point, you realize
it's fun.
Oh,
it's an
actually
exercise.
Just need to get work done, and I can't have things be super unreliable and super weird. And I actually have to be able to use my computer.
Yeah,
one of my best friends is like, that is the exact difference between the two of us, which is probably why we've been really successful like as a team. But this guy has such a deep passion for putting a lot of time and effort into the aesthetics of something, and like that just drives me nuts, where I'm just like, all of the time that you wasted on how something looks, like how could this possibly matter so much to you? But I also realized like that's kind of the marketing, like that's the people love to fidget and make things look a certain way. And in a lot of sense, in the world of tech, like the visual customization is like a way to kind of polish your ego for like how deeply you've gotten into the software, where people can look at it and be like, oh, this looks very advanced. It's like you zoom out from desktop to desktop and it's a cube, and you like spin it around, and this one has rounded.
Hell yeah, love my
desktop it's just cubes. Like, okay, dude, whatever. Like, but I understand at the same time, like kind of why that's. But what we've really learned out of this conversation is the great prophet was right, and we all need to go to Temple OS, and we all need to get right with God and use God's temple from here forward. So I'm announcing it here today. Alaskanon is switching to Commodore 64s running Temple OS exclusive.
And he will write new Monero libraries in Holy See.
In Holy See. I think it was actually originally written in Holy See, and it's like today it's a fork of the Holy See coding, if I'm not, which is probably why there's so much technical debt. If they would have just used the proper God-appointed number of lines of code, we would never have to update from now on.
I will say that it is good. Like if you've never riced a desktop, definitely or not just a desktop, but a system, right? Because ricing is more than just playing with your desktop fonts. There's other stuff involved, depending on what kind of Windows manager you're running or whatever. But like if you've never riced, then you should go do it so that you like kind of understand how the system works, and you get like a kind of a deeper, a little bit better understanding of front end and how all that stuff interfaces and interacts and works together. Like that's a useful reason to rice a desktop. And then you can also set up systems fairly quickly, right? You can do minimal customization, minimal like stuff that's going to make the user's life better, make your life better when you're setting up new systems. But, at some point, like you start to hit diminishing returns.
That's also one of the ways that I was able to get my wife to get more knowledgeable on using Linux. She had never actually used Linux until we met. And the thing is she was using it and then solving one problem at a time. And then as soon as she found out how much you could customize things and like how, all of a sudden she's just like becoming full-blown tech bro, right? Like, wait, I can change the way this looks. And then as soon as like the eye appeal, the visuals were involved. And now she can help people with their tech problems, even though
it's like you look at something all the time, right? So if you're going to be using your computer a lot, which I mean, like if you have a job, then you might have to. Obviously, using your computer all the time is not good for you. But if you're going to be looking at your computer a lot, don't you want the interface and everything to be like pleasing and nice? Because if you're going to be using something all the time, like you don't want it to be like depressing and just like drab and I mean that's why a lot of people like Apple is because Apple generally makes things look really good out of the box and you don't have to do anything. So
there's a certain mental relaxation that comes from aesthetic.
It's true.
Well, if Apple's going to be looking at your conversations and data all day, they might as well make it pretty, right? Like,
I wouldn't say that so much about Apple. I would say that about Microsoft.
Once again, though, like that's probably why they put all of the effort into those features, right? Like, so when they're looking at all of your stuff.
To the extent that Rising facilitates workflow, like if you're saving yourself 2 seconds 100 times a day, that's probably worth it to spend, a day or so figuring out some brand new system or something like that. Like I know Awesome Window Manager is like for the more technically inclined. It does a lot better scripting. But like I run i3 Windows Manager, for example, like, and there's like solid programming that I can do. I can create quick keys really easily, etc.
He uses i3 WM.
Yeah,
he's a true cypherpunk.
It's for the wannabe cypherpunk. Real cypherpunks are using Awesome Window Manager or straight out terminal to do everything.
Hyperland.
Yeah.
I never got into tiling window managers, so I guess I'm not a real cypherpunk. I just never quite went that far. I almost tried one at one point, and I was like, I just don't really have the time to try and learn how to use that, so I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get spun up in a couple days on the easy stuff, and then it'll take you a couple weeks to, I mean, you already know code, and I was kind of learning it at the same time I was learning code, so, it's kind of like a double whammy there, but, you'll probably get spun up in like a couple days, pretty, 80%, and then in a couple weeks, you'll have like almost all of it, and it's pretty fun, man. It's pretty cool. You probably already have all your hotkeys programmed anyways in your current window manager, so it's probably less cool than I could make it sound. But it is useful in a lot of ways. You can do some pretty neat stuff with it.
I have a new topic to ask about that I think it would be interesting to put our tinfoil hats on a little bit. So I have a working theory, which is there is some kind of like really, really major architecture change to either the silicon or something like that directly for why all of these big tech companies aren't putting as much into supply when it comes to things like GPUs. My theory is they've found a better way to do it that's just infinitely cheaper and more effective than the way that we do it now when it comes to like stuff designed for parallel processing and stuff. And I wonder if that's why like there's a GPU shortage and why we're getting like not great gains on the latest CPUs and all of that. And I wonder if even the idea of like Infinity Fabric and 3D cache stacking and all of that is basically them playing with technologies that are more inclined towards being used to this new architecture that nobody knows about yet. And I'm wondering if you guys are thinking like there's clearly something going on when it comes to the silicon shortage that goes beyond what people know about right now. That's my opinion, but I could be wrong.
Do we have that severe silicon shortage?
I'm not totally following your proposition. Like, okay, in a general sense, there are agendas at play with the whole silicon shortage narrative, but I'm not like in a specific sense, I'm not following what you're saying.
I think that we're not privy to the reason why the silicon shortages have been going on as long as they have been. And I think that it's like, this is my guess, right? I have nothing. I mean, yeah, like I do know some people that know about these things, but what I'm getting at is I think that there's some new tech that is like that people at very high levels in these kinds of things know about, that has everybody convinced that there's going to be a pivot to a new way of doing all of this stuff. And my biggest clue to the idea that maybe I'm onto something is, did you see how recently they started talking about, oh, we're going to redo the way that random access memory is done on your motherboards. We're not going to use like your typical standing RAM chips. It's all going to go this other way. I'll see if I can figure out like a news article I can link, but it's stuff that's existed for a while, and it already, like, there was reasons to believe that it could be faster, better, cheaper. But I think that they're starting to redesign the way that they do everything around some new way of doing CPUs and GPUs that we don't know about. And I know that's super vague, but it's just because it's like a hunch, right? I don't know what it would be, but I just think that that's probably the reason.
I don't think it's that complicated. I mean, you look at LPDDR5 versus like the soldered DDR5 or whatever Apple uses on like the MacBooks, right? They're able to get really, really fast speeds and very high power efficiency due to the tight integration that they have by soldering to the motherboard. And it is true that you can get more performance and you can have easier power control by soldering things directly to the motherboard than using slots. And there are newer slots that are coming out, like newer interfaces that are coming out that will try to match or be better than like LPDDR slots. Like there's CAM memory that Dell does, but like it's not like there's no benefit. There is a benefit. It's just, do you benefit having the greater power control and speed, or do you benefit having the ability to upgrade? And most companies have chosen the route of, we want to be able to have the better numbers and the better performance and energy efficiency, so we're just going to solder it to the board and make it more of a disposable thing.
There is also, we can say for sure, Intel used to have like CPU designs and advancements and innovations that they would design and then not produce. And well, they design it, patent it, and then not produce it. And effectively, it made it really hard to catch up to Intel for a very long time, because anytime someone like, say, AMD would come out with a new advancement,
something in their back pocket.
Exactly. They were already prepared to come over the top. And they did that for so many years. It was a really like brilliant strategy on their part. So we do know that is something, like the general notion of what you're suggesting, Alaska, is definitely something that silicon companies have been doing, particularly Intel.
Seems like Intel's kind of ran out of those back pocket magic cards, though, as of late.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, like PCIe RAM, for example, is, I mean, the server space is very much a thing, right? And do you know what I'm talking about? Like the idea of servers are just using PCI Express directly for their RAM needs. But that's kind of what I'm getting at, is basically, I think someone somewhere has stumbled upon a way where producing silicon in the traditional way is going to be gone. It could be something even more.
You're talking about the actual, like the foundries, like the manufacturing process.
Like foundries have found a way to get better gains without constantly reducing size, or maybe, for example, they found a cheaper way to make bigger crystals. So the slabs that they cut off of the crystal, like the wafers, maybe they're going to go up like another couple inches in diameter or something like that. I mean, it probably will anyway. But that's my hunch as to why there's this. They're underproducing. Like there's a serious shortage. Because if you were to know that, like if you were to know that everybody is now agreeing to go to a different system, wouldn't you want to create a shortage ahead of time?
Maximize profit, yep.
Yeah, but I'm still working out, like, I mean, this is all just gut based, but I'm just, the way that the people who manufacture silicon and the way that this stuff is being marketed and the way that they're not meeting like demand, it only really checks out if there's something coming, like a new way of doing this that they all know about. Is it like, as far as what I think the most likely scenario is?
As someone
Are
who
we
used
that
to be
much in a
part of,
silicon shortage though?
yeah, so there's that question. And as someone who used to be part of I actually did silicon manufacture. I know what these factories look like. One, you can't hide a fab. Like you can't hide a fab. These things, like, so for example, when I worked at Samsung in Austin, we consumed literally 5 to 7% of the entire energy of the city. A factory of like 3,000 people consumed the energy, 5 to 7% of the energy of that city, which is like 2 million people. So
this is some serious Bawdy lore here. So Bawdy worked at a Samsung foundry.
You didn't know that? I thought I
didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah, I used to do semicon process engineering.
Wow.
I was yeah, I did. I was like, the idea is we would do experiments to improve yield, or to reduce costs. They would give us like new tech and say, okay, the tech works, but like our yield is crap. It's not profitable. See if you guys can improve. Can figure out how to improve the yield. So I was a process engineer. So it's kind of like, you generally oversaw the entire stack. I was back end, so we did all the interconnects as opposed to like the silicon doping and whatnot. But yeah, I spent like 5 years doing that, which was like super, super informative for me over like practical applied engineering, stuff like that. Like a lot of the stats stuff that I do here that I show you guys on stream, like that's stuff that I learned in the factory there, or, learned in a previous job and then started applying in the factory. But
this
yeah, so
fucking guy, what a legend.
And yeah, so maybe you could kind of put into words what I was getting at, where like, and I'm not saying that this is what I actually think is about to happen, although I mean eventually you would think it would happen. But let's say, for example, you get these giant silicon crystals, all right, and they're cut down into wafers, and then people if you change the diameter of those wafers, basically everybody and their mother has to change everything, because things are built for a certain size. And I think that there's something about this process, either so far upstream or that has such an impact on the way that you design everything from like a motherboard to a server stack to whatever. And the people at the top of the industry, whatever that change is, and I'm just using the diameter of a wafer as an example. I don't know that's what it is, but I'm just saying there is something that changes this process so fundamentally that these guys are now looking at, okay, so how are we going to rebuild around this change to the process? That's what I think is really going on. And it's like some of the downstream effects are like silicon short. Because why would you want to invest in like, okay, let's ramp it up based on this new process and all this other stuff, like you would expect to see people doing right now? And yeah, they're kind of like messing around on the edges of doing it, but it appears to me that there is some kind of fundamental change to the way that these things are either produced or consumed that industry insiders at the top are privy to, that they expect is so likely that they don't want to move on something like a GPU shortage and all of this other stuff.
I'm honestly though, man, I'm not seeing a silicon shortage. Like we saw one for a little bit of time, and that was associated with the whole beer bug, economic shutdown, right? Like, so there was that. There was kind of a silicon shortage, but like just in general, like I said, you can't hide a major foundry. Like you can't. They consume such massive resources. The tolerance of the materials that you need are so insane. Like, here's an example. They actually built a second Samsung facility in Austin. So the first one went all the way down to 14 nanometer. Maybe it was 10. I don't remember what the final. I left before they. Anyways, they had to build an entirely new, like $12 billion facility, a fabrication facility, because the technology is too different, even just between 14 nanometer and 5 nanometer. Like that's how different the technologies were, that they just couldn't retrofit the old factory. So
I can't believe how that industry even keeps up.
It's unfathomable, dude. Like honestly, it's
because I've seen like not in person, but I've seen videos of like some of these foundries' facilities from like overhead. Like I think there was one Intel's been building for a while in, what was it, Ohio? Intel's been building a foundry in the US for like years, and these things take like years to build, and by the time they're built, you finally get whatever ability to produce, 5 nanometer or 3. So like they're building these things like years ahead of time before that technology is even out.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, you're anticipating the technologies that are going to mature as you're building the factory to make sure that you're keeping up with the tech stack. Yeah, I mean they're huge, they're massive. Like imagine multiple football field size, like maybe 2 or 3 football fields of size, and then you have these tools that are each they're about the size of anywhere from a car to sometimes up to like the size of an 18-wheeler. Maybe not quite as big as an 18-wheeler, but something around that size. Like the litho machines can get pretty big. And you've got all of these in a clean room that's like cleaner than a hospital. Like you've got these particle filters because particles are the death of silicon. So you have all these like particle filters and like airflow specifications, and it's just like massive factory. Everything is automated. Like the factory runs the fastest when we leave for like a fire drill or something, because we're always trying to stop the process and be like, okay, well, let's do an experiment here. Or let's, we got to fix this machine or do some maintenance. But the shit just runs completely automated from start to finish. But you wouldn't be able to hide like some groundbreaking new technology inside one of these factories. I mean, maybe I say that you wouldn't be able to mass produce it at a minimum. Like you might be able to hide some of these tools, but everyone in the factory like would find out like, what's this tool here? Because like you walk the factory every day, you have rows and rows of all these tools, but you have a pretty good idea of what they are, who they belong to, and what they're doing in the process. At least like if you're a process engineer or management or anywhere at that level. So it would be really hard to hide like groundbreaking, earth-shattering new technology in the fab without it kind of being known about. And like I don't have an NDA that forces me to not say that. I just never saw anything like that in Austin.
It's being built yet, though. And so I'll give you an example of what I'm kind of leading towards. So like right now, if you go to Amazon and you start looking for like a 5090, right? It's either like they're all out of stock or there's one left over or whatever.
That's just NVIDIA doing that on purpose.
Yeah. But then you can do the same thing for example, what is it? It's the 9070, right? So you can see the same thing where like the prices are, I mean, that if somebody were to go about producing enough of these things, like they could get huge market capture unless they were under the impression that something is going to change. And I just don't know what it is. But I do agree with Bawdy. Like there's no doubt the lead time on building these stuff and manufacturing is ridiculous. Like the in order to meet like a consumer viable, like mass producing thing, but maybe also that's part of what is behind all of this. Like maybe, like driving down the size and scope of what it takes to mass produce, like there's some kind of revelation for how to make that less expensive or something. I don't know. But it definitely seems to me, and I'm just all tinfoil hat on this one. It seems to me like somebody has figured something out that they expect to change the industry. But I don't know what it is.
There's the thing is, man, like the developmental stack is so deep that there's probably like 3 or 4 different technologies that could hypothetically revolutionize the industry. At some point, like the technology of silicon is just not going to work because of electron tunneling, or they're going to have to do crazy shit like cryogenic. They're already starting to stack 3D, as Tux noted on the show like a week ago or a month ago. So like, I mean, the next revolution in silicon would probably figuring out how to stack silicon 3D, and potentially stacking the RAM directly onto the CPU, because you do run into speed of light issues on these clock cycles, which is probably a reason why clock cycles have kind of maxed out at like 5 gigahertz. But yeah, you actually, believe it or not, you do run into speed of light issues at certain clock speeds. But there's a whole like technological stack, and they've got like a bunch of propositions for, okay, what are we going to do to overcome silicon? A lot of that's still developmental. And maybe they figured it out. Like maybe you're right. Maybe they figured something out. But as far as like the current GPU shortage, that's just AI. That's like everyone in their home laboratory and tinkerers, and Elon Musk wanting to buy up 100, 100,000, 200,000 H100s, to train up Tesla, plus 100 other companies that want to do the same thing. Like it's really like with the current way that AI is trained as like an optimization feedback function kind of, you need more of the compute resources to be able to do that better. And so there's just this massive demand to get ahead of that. And so everyone's scooping up all the GPUs. And because the turnaround time on production is so long, this massive demand for GPUs has outstripped the capacity to produce more of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also, I know NVIDIA has done stuff in the past purposefully to kind of keep things at a certain level of stock in order to artificially boost the prices for retailers.
Yep.
That is 100%. Not unlike NVIDIA. Yeah, that's super cool you worked at Foundry, though. You definitely have the most insight to any of this out of anyone on the show for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've been out of the game for like 7 years in that regard. I left in 2016.
Wow, that is a long time in tech years.
Yeah, it is. There's like when you said that you had what is it, a Ryzen 3D? I can't remember. I was like, wait, what 3D? They're not stacking silicon,
7950X 3D, which is the 3D V cache.
Yeah, so they're stacking RAM 3D now, which is definitely like that's a big improvement. That's huge.
Yeah, just one part of it, but even being able to, I guess, stack the CPU cache allows you to put a lot more in it.
Everyone's using the people have started to stack MacBook Minis, and the reason is because you need shitloads of VRAM for your GPU, like basically RAM that's embedded into your GPU. But apparently the Mac architecture has shared RAM between the CPU and GPU, so they can both access it. And so if you buy a MacBook Mini with a lot of RAM, and you have the calculations aren't the hard part, it's just the storing of all the data. And so apparently that's why people are stacking MacBook Minis lately.
Oh, you mean like together?
Yeah. Like they're to do like some of the more complex, like Llama 3.2 or whatever. It's, I don't know, it's like 500 billion parameter. Like you need literally like hundreds of gigabytes to run the full model, the non-quant model, and quant models are garbage.
Swoops actually, he did like a little breakdown on just how much of a difference per dollar it was for him to just scoop up Mac Minis versus try to build it in the more traditional, like lots of graphics cards, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the savings was extreme. Like, and he's not even using like huge chunks of what the computer is designed for, and he's still just saving piles of money.
It's because you don't need the massive core resources. So you have like thousands of cores in the latest, maybe like 10,000 cores in the latest NVIDIA GPUs, but you don't really need the calculation. That's not the hard part. It's just that you need a shitload of RAM space to store the full model. And these NVIDIA GPUs, they don't come with that much RAM space. You even have China, with the export on GPUs to China, you have 2080s. They're using 2080s, so pretty old technology. As far as silicon is concerned, they're using 2080s, but they're soldering additional VRAM onto the chip so that they're getting like 22 gigabytes of VRAM per 2080, and they can get these 2080s for like $500 a pop. So something like that. Like that, those are the ish numbers.
If anyone wants to outcompete NVIDIA, all they have to do is sell some high-end graphics cards with a lot more VRAM. Because NVIDIA, at least for their high-end consumer cards, don't have enough for a lot of people with the AI
I have
stuff
thought about that. Where like, what if somebody actually just bought one of these nice NVIDIA cards and found a way to just stack a shitload more?
Well, even AMD cards, like the same tier, comes with more VRAM. So that's one way that AMD is trying to be a little more competitive, although NVIDIA still owns, like, it's mostly a monopoly with like NVIDIA. And unless you get into more integrated systems like the Macs, which have Apple's own silicon GPUs, which have the shared memory with the CPU. So if you get like a MacBook Pro, you can get them with 128 gigabytes of RAM, and the GPU is able to use quite a lot of that.
Yeah.
So,
I was really hoping
weird.
that
I'm almost surprised that we haven't
down prices. Like, I was hoping that because there's a different option that it was going to drive down the prices, because there'd finally be like some competition in the AI space between NVIDIA and like, oh look, I guess it's Apple now. That hasn't really emerged yet though.
Yeah, I mean, there's people with their home laboratories that, like I said, they've been stacking MacBook Minis with as much RAM as they can get. It's still expensive, but it's way cheaper, than using NVIDIA's or AMD's. I wonder if there might be like, okay, so going into the conspiracy stuff, kind of that Alaska was talking about, it wouldn't be surprising to me if AMD and NVIDIA have kind of made an agreement to limit how quickly they increase the VRAM on their cards. Because if they just come out with cards that straight up have 512 gigabytes of RAM.
There's no point. Yeah, you buy that one, and then that one, the person can keep it for like 4 years. It's good for them for 4 years. But if they do these small incremental improvements, it's like everyone's going to always buy the new one because I need it.
Yep, I could 100%
is what you're
see that.
To.
Yeah, they want to trickle out, the improvements, and it seems like, okay, guys, come on, are you telling me that you can't figure out how to get 256 gigabytes or 1,000 gigabytes onto one of these cards? Like, yes, you can. So what?
Yeah, they totally could. It's a good point.
Another one that I think is really funny is like, how there's this idea of like the silicon lottery, right? Where it's like sometimes you just get a better chip or just like, that they have to be. And in fact, I think the evidence is pretty overwhelming that like a lot of these people, when they test the cards, they already know like which ones have won the silicon lottery and stuff. You just know that like there's this big pile of cards that came out basically flawlessly. And then there's like this black market of like direct from NVIDIA and direct from Intel and AMD and all that. Like these are the ones that had the best like results from like straight from the fab. And you and I are just like not even allowed to bid on it because it's like, here's $1 million for this 5090 or whatever, like they're certainly doing that.
Yeah, they might have that wouldn't surprise me if they had OTC deals where they bin the silicon and they guarantee certain GPUs as being part of a certain bin. Like if you ever heard of B-Die when it comes to RAM?
Dude, like Samsung B-Die, I had some back in the day.
Yeah, they're great for overclocking. Yeah, that gets really expensive, but people use it for overclocking.
They stopped manufacturing it, and people were like, "Shoot, this is like Samsung B-Die." I think, to my knowledge, was the best die of RAM for DDR4 for overclocking. So once they stopped manufacturing B-Die, the prices started to go up a lot just to get B-Die RAM.
I may or may not have some B-Die.
The returns were diminishing though. Like it's like if you're like in an extreme, like you really want everything to be like the best of the best. Otherwise, it literally didn't matter.
Yeah, it actually doesn't. Usually, your bottleneck is going to be somewhere else.
And it's very diminishing returns, like the more you overclock something. So.
Yeah, in hindsight, I probably wouldn't buy the B-Die again if I could go back.
I accidentally got some at one point, and I was like, "Oh, cool, nice."
This is definitely like the nerd version of car guy talk. It's like, no, bro,
totally
got B-Die in it.
But I mean, that's the thing too. Like Bawdy was saying, like they do bin things. So like you've got the Ryzen 7 7900X, and then you've got a Ryzen 5 7600X, and that's probably some of that's from bin from a Ryzen 7 that had like 2 cores that couldn't keep up or whatever, so they binned it down to sell it as a Ryzen 5.
There's another angle here in that it's very possible that the elites, right, the people running the economy and shit, like they don't, just like they didn't want you to do all your local calculations and run programs locally. They want you using the cloud, right? They want you storing everything in the cloud. They don't want you running your own local AI. They don't want local AI to be reasonably accessible for people to run their own models. They want to get all of your typing and all of your input and all of your data so that they can train more AIs and so that they can monitor and surveil you, right? Like they don't want you running your own local AI. So that could be another factor in sort of a collusion to not increase the VRAM.
Local process power. Yeah, VRAM especially. Well, guys, it is already 3 o'clock. And I guess we didn't really have anyone else come up. So I guess we'll go ahead and cut it off here. Thanks, Alaskadon, for always holding the fort down. And thanks, Bawdy, for joining us for some fun talk and banter about technology.
Cheers.
And yeah, I guess Doug's probably AFK, probably helping with the baby. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming on. I hope you all have a good weekend, and we will see you next. Actually, I won't be here next week. I'll be out of town. I'm sure Alaskadon will be here next week. You'll probably see him.
Bawdy is always ready to show the people the way to financial freedom.
True.
Bawdy, you think we potentially get our big dip this week in the broader crypto market?
I think it depends on Wednesday. I think it depends on what Trump says. It wouldn't surprise me. Like, nothing would surprise me here, but I don't think I can make any clear predictions at the moment. Whether
you got to pay for Bawdy Plus. To get
exactly.
For the record, if anyone's listening on the show still, he will never ever see me charging for Bawdy Plus. I might sell this Wave Magic indicator one day, but that day is not today.
You got to download Bawdy Browser. You got to download Bawdy Browser. There's a wallet plugin.
Someone's going to make a Bawdy AI and then charge people for that.
Yo, the Bawdy. I need a Bawdy autopilot.
Yeah.
See, like Nancy Pelosi autopilot. I need one just like follows Bawdy's trade patterns. All right, thanks everyone. We will see you next week.
All right, guys. Adios. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on this week's Monerotopia episode. We stream live shows every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube and Odyssey, or listen to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or join us in the Monerotopia Telegram group. See you all next week.